You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. Now, some is or you ain't, you do or you don't, you can or you can't, or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good. Hey, everybody, McGill here.
And I'm Jamie.
And today we got I'd like to say a very special guest episode, but obviously be a lie.
Might be a little shorter than usual.
Yeah. We don't know who this man is. We've seen him out talking to trees. He said he hadn't taken his medication yet. He was bothering people. He was within 500 yards of a school. That's always dangerous. But other than that, no, all jokes aside, it's our good buddy and longtime friend, Mr. Jay Clark, with us today.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. It's doctor, but yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
Jay's fine, though.
That's okay. Well, let's see. Wait till I get about 2 minutes in, and then I'll really tell you what I think
sure,
about.
Yeah. I've listened to enough of these to know what's coming.
But no, Jay and I go back a long ways. We've been to the wrestling matches together. We've shared the stage together many times, and a few bottles, a few canoe trips, a few grills.
Canoe trip,
underwear to singing through my underwear.
Oh yeah, please, yeah. That's my biggest hit, and we'll make sure you get a chance.
Before cell phones, or trust me, we'd had plenty of pictures.
Oh yeah. But different incarnations of all kinds of years through our friendship and different stuff we've done. Well, I would guess I sang on your backup on your 2 or 3 year projects, I guess. So yeah.
Yep. My third record, I'm Confused. You were on there singing.
Yeah.
On I'm Confused, as well as
Free Beer Tomorrow
and all that good stuff, which Wade Hill, there was a bunch of good people on that one.
Yeah.
That was Mike Seal and Wade Hill and Cruz Contreras and Jimmy Davis. It was a fun one.
I told a funny story about Wade the other day. I actually got when I was building this place, and after I'd first got it built, I didn't have any of the insulation or anything yet in it, but I had forged me up a plywood work table and big L shape, and I had all my tools and different stuff in here, and I ran across, and this was right after my dad. No, I guess he hadn't passed yet, but at any rate, I had his old stereo in here, and it was a dual cassette with the turntable and everything. But I found a cassette that Wade had sent me through the mail, because did he ever send you letters?
Oh yeah.
He was always old school. He'd always send you a letter thanking you for hiring him in on a gig or giving him the opportunity, and he'd usually record something, and it was all homemade.
Yep.
Black and white, Xerox copied, and put together. But anyway,
the sweetest notes. Just nice. I mean, it'd be like, his thing with me was he always ended his letters by saying, "I hope you write a song about me someday."
Right. That's funny. Well, I ran across a tape, and it was on one side, it was something that he had put together in a recording studio and recorded it. And on the other side, it was I was doing a Blue Plate special with him, me and Barry Reed. And I got to listen to that and was just like, man, how good he was, first of all, and then, you know, it just brought back millions of memories, you know?
Yeah, I got him to play at a wedding with me and Daniel Kimbrough and Corey Kimbrough down in Dunlap years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I told him, I was like, you know, I should dress to the nines, just, you know, show up or whatever. And it was towards the end of his ability probably to get out much. But he showed up in those white wingtip shoes, you know, and these black pants that the zipper didn't work.
Oh,
and it's awesome. I mean, I told the people, I said, listen, I'm going to have a famous banjo player coming and playing at your wedding.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, he's a famous banjo player, which means he's probably pretty eccentric. You know, and he
very
was.
Very much so.
And he was. But no, I miss that guy a lot.
Yeah.
Being on his show, you know, and the wrestling part of that shit, that was so much fun.
Yeah, me and Trisha Jean went down and did the cable access show with him a few different times. Can you lower that just a little bit? Or I feel like Jay's like he's challenged enough without having to
vertically, absolutely
look over.
Maybe throw my back being all curved over, you know. Got a high chair at work.
So, he was, Wade was an extraordinary guy and a hell of a musician, hell of a banjo player, and a good guitar player.
Never really got his due either, you know. No. I mean, he did early on, but.
Well, I think part of that was
him being eccentric.
Wade, not only was he eccentric, but he was a wild card too.
Oh yeah.
Like if you hired Wade in to do a job and he had a driver, you were fucked. It was going to be a bad night. I mean, it was going to be a fun night, but this is going to be Wade's
That only
night.
happened once, I think.
Yeah.
In a gig we were in.
And anytime that he drove, you were golden because I guess he had been
behaving,
busted and popped so many times through the years that he just wasn't ever going to do that again, you know.
But there's a documentary that I almost said Bradley Cooper. It ain't Bradley Cooper. I'll think of his name in a minute. But he works for the Tennessee Folklore Society out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Bradley Reeves.
Reeves, thank you. And he, I think it's finished now, and you can find it online. I think it officially came out last year, but it's called Wade Hill Appearing in Person, I think.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's really good. You know, it also, if you know Wade, it kind of helps make some sense of some shit there the last few years, you know.
Yeah.
He was around because he wasn't really around.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of made a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't, I lost touch with him for a while.
Well, I think he lost touch with everybody is kind of what I'm getting at, yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. And then I just heard kind of out of the blue one day that he had passed.
Yep.
And, I think he called me once. At any rate, I just you know, I quit playing bluegrass. I wasn't playing bluegrass anymore, so I didn't. I just didn't have the. I didn't have that call to make anymore. You know, before it was always trying to find a banjo player.
I got him played electric guitar on one of those songs on my I'm Confused record.
Well, you asked me.
That's right.
He was like, "Does he play guitar?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" I
knew he did. I just, I've always known him as a bluegrass banjo player, and usually don't think, somebody that can tear an electric up. The same time,
And he was the melody king, man. He played the melody. It wasn't a bunch of hot licks. If it was Hey Jude, you knew it was Hey Jude when he played it. If it was, Rock the Casbah, it was the melody. It was every song was the melody. And that always amazed me because I always felt like, anybody can learn a bunch of hot licks and then figure out how to string them together. But
listening and playing are two different things.
Listening and playing and knowing the melody to where other people know what song you're playing. Just always, I don't know.
That Wade's rocking banjo. I don't sit around listen to instrumentals a lot, but good God.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to respect the hell out of what he did on that record, and that was from the 70s, early 70s.
Yeah. And there's a cut on that little tape I'm talking about that we did off of, on DVX. We did White House Blues. Of course, that's an old Reno and Smiley tune. Don Reno, banjo genius. And, I listened to it and I was just like, holy shit. I didn't know. First of all, it reminded me of how I could play. Cause I'd hear stuff I was doing. I'd be like, well, golly, I hadn't thought about that move or that kind of thing in so long. And then, you go back and listen to it again. You're just like, holy cow, this is good.
Well, my favorite part of that documentary before we move on from Wade.
Now, is it on YouTube?
Yeah. Okay. Again, I think it's Wade Hill appearing in person or appearing live in person or something like that.
I want to watch it.
But
I didn't know there was such a thing.
His house, they had already cut the water and electricity off. He was living in his mom and dad's house.
Yeah.
Of course, they'd passed and they'd already cut all the utilities off. And he lived there for months. And this kind of like Wade the missing years, if you will.
Yeah.
He lived there for months, if not years. And when the bank finally came and said they were, gave him an eviction notice and all that stuff, there was a piano in the house. And he's like, I'm not letting them have this piano. He pushed that sumbitch out in the driveway, started playing Jerry Lee Lewis and set that sumbitch on fire.
Really?
And it's in the documentary. It's awesome.
God bless Wade Hill. God bless Wade Hill. Hell yeah, man.
And then he took all the metal from it, the strings and everything, and went and scrapped it. He got called someone called the county environmental about it because, piano's not going to smell real good when it's on fire.
Yeah.
And of course, he didn't tell any of his neighbors or anything, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Wow.
I want the raw footage of it because, in the documentary, it's more got a bunch of music in the background, and
right. So did Bradley shoot this?
Yeah.
Okay.
He in fact, the last time I guess
he's supposed to have been on here, and we had I think it was during the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Way back, and we hadn't got him rescheduled yet.
I found out he was working on that somehow because when WDVX did their 25th reunion or show at the Bijou or something.
Yeah.
It was the first one they had coming out of COVID anyway. And I wanted to do a tribute to Wade. And so what we ended up doing, and I just completely drew a blank, his guitar player.
Oh, Terry Phillips.
Terry Phillips.
Yeah.
We got Terry to come out on stage with me and Daniel and Corey and Greg and the Tennessee Tree Beavers, and got him to play lead on one of Wade's songs from that documentary. And so the documentary is Wade talking about this, and the song starts in the background, and then we take it over.
Oh, wow.
And then the next song is one I wrote for Wade the day of the show.
That wasn't the 25-year.
It may not have been. It was one of those in between.
Okay.
But it was at the Bijou, and what was cool is we put that big screen down, and I'd worked it out with Bradley, and Daniel helped me out a lot doing the video editing. But we went through it and captured some stuff. But I hadn't seen. He didn't send us the piano thing, or I'd have had that sumbitch on there. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But no, it was still really cool, and I felt really good about that night, and hope it helped Wade get his due a little bit.
Well,
WDVX has a video on there of that somewhere.
Absolutely. He was a child prodigy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and a lot of the old bluegrassers obviously knew his story more than I did. But yeah, I mean, back in the day, he was it.
Hey, you'll love his documentary then.
Yeah.
Jimmy, he played with Jimmy Martin and all them guys. And
all of them.
Yeah.
He played with all of them.
Yeah.
And was good enough, and if not better than most of them. Yeah. Well, I'll have to check that out for sure. What else has been going on in your world? I see you're doing a few performances here and there.
Yeah, I actually have a show tomorrow night, which tomorrow will be June 21st, I guess, Friday. I'll be playing at the Heritage Center with a full slate of beavers.
Yeah.
Including the one female beaver we have.
Uh-oh.
And that's Sarah Perkle on fiddle.
Okay.
She hates it when I say she's the sole female beaver, but
I couldn't imagine why.
But no, we'll be playing down there. Daniel usually plays bass with us, but Chris Zur is he's played with me a few times now, and he's going to be with us, so it'll be fun.
Good deal. What's the lady up there that Logan
that books it and runs it?
Well, I guess so.
Can't remember her last
name. I worked with another lady up there one time. I think her name was Tammy. I don't know, but so it's been a few years.
Yeah,
a few years back. But
no, I mean,
that's a nice little venue.
Oh, it's a great little venue.
Yeah,
you know, I don't travel anymore unless it's like a house concert or something.
Yeah.
You know, I have a regular job that's still part-time by choice because I got that breadwinner at home. I like that.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'd probably do anywhere from 10 to 20 shows a year, and the majority of them are nearby, and I choose them. You know what I mean? It's like,
I know exactly what
I know
you
know what I mean.
I was
both y'all. Because, you know, it's hard to do what I do, and you know, depending on what kind of show you're trying to do.
Yeah. You
know, it's hard to do that if you're just the jukebox in the background, you know.
Well, there's a sacrifice, and you got to be willing to make it.
Yeah.
You know, because you are just going to be that. Exactly what you said.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I've done it.
But that's not what I'm after, you know, and I had the luxury of picking and choosing that, you know, a little bit. So I do. Yeah.
We call those making the donuts gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and for years I had to make the donuts. And then when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, it was like, you know, when I started finally feeling good enough about coming back out and putting on a few shows, which there was a 3-year period there. I only did 2 shows and they were both Christmas shows.
Yeah.
I mean, cause it was, you know, there was no reward for the risk.
Yeah.
Here with taking care of my parents. But at any rate, once all that kind of subsided and got by, I was just like, you know, I don't think I want to go back to 150 shows a year and working, you know, I don't have to do that anymore.
That made me nauseated.
Smarter, not harder, baby.
Just hearing
Smarter,
that.
not harder.
Yeah.
You know?
And,
I mean, it's like if you were a painter, you know, I always tell people when they ask me about doing house concerts or something, I try to explain to them, well, look, I don't do parties. I love to party, but I don't do parties, you know. And I explain to them, I don't play cover songs except for a couple that I really, really like.
Yeah.
And that you might
because not everybody
know.
that reaches out and calls you knows what they, you know, they just know you play music and they're like, hey, can you come play our pool party?
Hey, man.
And years ago, I'd have done it,
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
because I needed the money and I needed some fans. But now it's more like, you know.
Don't you love it when the first question they ask you is, how much you charge?
Yeah. And then you know you're in trouble.
Yeah. And then and I've just told them straight up, I'm like, so have you ever heard what I do? Well, no, but so-and-so was telling me. I said, so you don't really know if you even fucking like me or not.
Yep.
And this is all about math.
I ask them if they got a friend that paints. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, or draw or something, you know. And I'll be like, okay, if you were going to have them come to your house to display their art, would you put a silk curtain over it, each picture? Because at the end of the day, you can tell somebody painted or made a photograph or something, but you can't really see the fine details or try to appreciate where they were coming from. And that's no different than going and playing music in your original music in a situation where people are not, it's not an ego thing. It's just like, hey, that's what I do, you know, and there's a difference in the two.
Yeah.
And, you know, most time people get it. And if they don't, you just make sure, if you're not sure going in, you make sure you got enough money to make it worth the bullshit at the end of the night.
Yeah.
But man, before you start bashing me and I start bashing you, or too bad. I do want to tell you this. Oh yeah, I do want to tell you
I'm going
this.
to bash you.
I keep forgetting we're on camera.
I'm just going to tell the truth.
Oh, I love it. I'm ready for it, brother. I'm not going to outwit you because I know better. But
well,
one, your Christmas show's just awesome.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of where you've taken that.
I appreciate it.
Is I remember, and I can't remember the name of the song at the moment. It was on your first Romeo's record.
Oh, okay.
But I remember when you ran that, you hadn't written a bunch of songs, and it's the one you had the lyrics in your glove box or something. And I'm sorry, there's something in the song about cigarettes and glove box and all this stuff. And
it was
all I remember is the day that you showed that to me, and you were like, hey, I haven't written a bunch of songs. I just curious what your thoughts would be of this, you know, and ever since then you've been a writing machine. And
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. So there's my 2 kudos to you, other than having me on your show.
well.
Y'all show, I should say, Jamie. Sorry.
It's all right.
I know you're the brains of this.
We know who's
operation.
running
Yeah.
shit around here.
I like it when you when your face curls up like that, when you're really trying to make a point.
My face curls up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, when you was
like
trying-
I really mean it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You kind of
I'm not a big bullshitter.
kind of do something.
You're in the
like
wrong
that.
place. Sam.
Well, I mean, I can bullshit with the best of them, but I'm just saying, when it comes to serious stuff, I ain't a bullshitter.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
So no more compliments for you, probably, but that's
Oh, there'll be more.
those are important.
There'll be more.
I'm sure there
There'll
will
be more.
be. What are y'all smoking, by the way?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I know
we
y'all usually start talking about that for now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be done with mine before we
I was
mention
about to
it.
say,
but,
man, you're about to hit the damn wrapper.
Yeah, well,
Is that one of those aqua-colored ones that y'all talked about with JC recently?
I don't know if we talked about this one, JC, or not. This is a numero uno by Hoya de Nicaragua.
Looks like a penis, only smaller.
Yeah, it was longer, but earlier, and it's
Sure am
Ecuador,
fat.
Connecticut wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler, and maybe the best Connecticut I've ever had. It's certainly
Yeah,
in my
they're-
top 2.
They're great.
This and the champagne.
Y'all ever cut and stripped or grown tobacco?
I've seen it done.
I've worked in it, but
Sucks.
I did that one
Yeah.
time.
My granddad used to do that.
Yeah.
By the time I got old enough to really get into it, he quit.
Yeah, that's
And
probably a good
He used
thing.
to have 5. Oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was a 4-hour drive to get up to Western Kentucky to my granddad's farm, and we went up there regularly anyway, but you went up there twice a year, everybody, and it was a big family. So there's like 6, kids from my grandparents, and then all their kids, which they are very prolific in procreating. And you went out there, and if you were 5, you carried stalks, and when they didn't need you to carry stalks anymore, then you got sent to the garden with my grandmother.
Yeah.
Tell something about that. But I remember that in my throat, that scratchiness
Yeah.
from, being in the shop with them and everything. And it was like, man. So my granddad, I remember when I got ready to go off to college, he goes, if you want to grow an acre of tobacco, here's how much you can make. And, if you need help paying your tuition, but you got to come up here, at least 4 times. And that's like a 5-hour drive from East Tennessee. And I was like, yeah, granddad, I appreciate that, but I think I'm going to take a big pass on that.
Yeah.
My daddy, he grew up in Monroe County. And of course, his whole family worked, they would take tobacco jobs as side jobs, handing tobacco. And I used to talk about handing tobacco, my grandmother, but he's allergic to tobacco.
Really?
It gets on his skin, and just the sample of it, he's like deathly allergic to
Huh.
it. Makes him sick as a dog. So he got out of that
Yeah.
handed tobacco shit.
That's why he's so damn hateful.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He got no way to release.
That's right.
I've never been able to smoke much because of my asthma, and that includes pot, cigars, or cigarettes. But
Yeah.
cigarettes get to me a little bit sometimes.
Cigarettes are the devil,
But
man. They
cigar
really
smoke
are the devil.
smells good to me. I just don't smoke it.
Yeah. Well, you were asking what we're smoking. I'm smoking Don Pepin Garcia. This is a Vegas Cubanos. It's a Nicaraguan Puro Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and filler. It's a Rosado is the color they describe for that, which is kind of gives it that pinkish reddish hue. But very good value stick. You can find these. You can find deals on them online.
So, like, are we talking
And I'm having a
$15?
no.
7 or 8.
Okay.
These,
So I
Those
buy a
are-
drink.
yeah, back,
Those are like $15.
right. These are, yeah, these
But
are
those
not
are
what I would
limited
call
edition.
cost effective.
They only come out.
When you have a special guest.
Well,
They only make them certain times. So
yeah,
they,
that's what I was saying.
1,500 boxes, I think, is all they made of
Really?
these. Yeah.
No.
Huh.
And these are, these are probably, anywhere between 5 to 7
Yeah.
online. I'm smoking this one in the Toro size. But I like the Corojo wrappers. They got a lot of zing and cedar notes and baking spices. Really good flavors.
What'd you smoke after the Tennessee game last night? You got your hat on.
Smoked. Yeah, I smoked a. What did I smoke? Oh, I smoked a La Palina Maduro.
Oh, yeah. Which are really cost effective.
Very, very
Like
cost
$3,
cigar.
Okay.
maybe.
I didn't know if you were being sarcastic.
But they're really good.
They're good. I mean, they're great smoke. You
That's
can-
kind of our thing with the cigar world is because when you first kind of get into the hobby, you shop with your eyes. So you see all these cool bands. I mean, like this is very ornate and pretty, and it reminds you of classic, Cuban stuff.
So you assume if they make that look good, the cigar's
a
going to be
lot of
good.
folks
Yeah.
do, yeah. And they'll shop with their eyes and say, "Oh, well, that's attractive. That looks nice," and it could taste like a total dog rocket, But our big thing is, and nobody helped me with when I first got into it, was the learning the difference of what are cigars that I'm a baller on a budget.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I need.
especially at
Now,
the
I
rate
don't
we
care to
smoke.
splurge for something special, just the same way I wouldn't care to splurge for a great meal.
Yeah.
If I know it's going to be
Worth it.
great
Yeah.
and it's worth it, then yeah, I'm going to splurge on my tip. I'm going to splurge on the meal, and I'm probably going to get every course, dessert, a cup of coffee at the end. I'm going to do it upright.
But if you're going to smoke 10 to 20 cigars a week,
Yeah.
which is about right, then
Yeah.
you're looking at, even on a budget, $200 a week
Yeah.
habit.
Mm,
Well, I drink a lot, so I
Yeah,
get it. We all got to die something.
yeah.
I usually smoke a cigar every morning with my coffee and stuff because I'm at work. I can get away with that.
This is a dumbass question, but do y'all, you don't inhale cigars?
No.
I know most people don't, but I just, I've never, y'all
No.
seem like real serious cigar smokers.
No.
That's what I'm asking.
You'd be
Yeah.
over there laid
I was
up
about
in
to
a
say, you'd
fetal
be-
position,
yeah.
sucking your thumb.
All right.
Yeah,
puking.
we'd have to have oxygen.
Yeah,
by now.
no, it shuts. And I mean, when I smoke cigarettes, I smoke reds, I smoke non-filters, I smoke the strongest shit they had, and I
And
can
you can
smoke
feel it.
them 3 or 4 at a time.
Can you feel it?
Oh, the difference then now?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah,
Okay.
God, yeah. I mean,
Are you smoking cigarettes at all?
No,
Good.
my range on my voice is back.
Good.
The high part, the
Yep.
high side, and No, I have much better breathing. I don't snort and gag and go on and choke at night, snoring and all that
stuff. My dad
stuff.
was a minister for 42 years and
tell a big difference.
He quit smoking when I was about 10 or 9 or 10. And I'd made him at church camp. We went and dug clay out of this pit. We made things, a gift for somebody. And I made him an ashtray. And I brought that back, and my mom must have been like, this might be a sign. Because after that, I remember him trying to quit. And man, he had the hardest time. I mean, they handed out, he smoked cool,
Oh, yeah.
And they handed that shit out in high school when he was 13 years old in the hallways. And he.
Boy, wasn't America great?
That's nuts, man. But he was, a pack a day easy.
Cool.
More. Yeah.
That's the same thing that, what's his face smoked? Nat King Cole.
Oh, is it?
3 packs a day.
I just remember, and I remember riding anywhere we went in a car, the windows would be cracked and I had terrible allergies.
And holding it up to the window.
Yeah, exactly. But no, somewhere around there he quit. And I remember hearing him at night in the bathroom, just coughing up shit.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, all right, I ain't gonna do that. So I've never been tempted to smoke. Plus, again, it bothers my asthma and stuff.
But,
no, I like the smell of pipes and cigars.
Well, the thing, I just quit cold turkey, and I just was tired, and I decided to quit. I've had a few here and there.
At a show
over that time, if I got 5 minutes and I want a fucking cigarette, I'll probably smoke one. But I'm not, been.
But you don't fall back into that.
No. For sure.
And I have no disrespect. People smoking. Just
no.
It's more of a the way I grew up with it and having the allergies I had to.
Well, I had a similar experience to that because, see, cigarette smoke killed like half my family.
Yeah.
At least. And I grew up with a negative connotation of, hey, you smoke, you're going to die.
Yeah.
But at the same time, both my grandparents smoked on my mom's side, and I'd go to their house after school. And I got to where I love the smell of cigarette smoke. And then playing in all those bars, because when I started playing, you could still smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
And I love it. It gives me a relaxing, but I never smoked cigarettes. Don't like it. But these, since you don't inhale, and probably what you were going to say is that this is probably the most pure consumer item that you can buy.
Yeah.
There's nothing been done to this.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just aged, fermented.
Yeah.
And there's no correlation.
Like dried, cured.
Throw shit in there to make people want to, smoke it constantly.
And there's no correlation between lung cancer and cigar only smokers. It's just not.
Well, just for the record, I 100% support cigar and pot smoking. I want to look in there and
tobacco smoking.
Hopefully, if I ever do that again, it'll be legal. I'm flying to Norway a week from tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to figure out how to smuggle because I've got chronic back problems and sciatica issues and I'm about to have my 4th back surgery. So, the way I get by is with some help from little buds.
Absolutely.
But, and so I make my own little oil. So I went and bought a big vitamin bottle the other day that had capsules in it about the same size as what I make at home.
Yeah.
Because I infused some weed with coconut oil, and then I take a pipette that I stole from Maryville College out of the chemistry department that was semi-new, so it didn't have any bad shit in it. And it's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. I fill those little capsules up and I'm good to go. As far as in being able, that's what allows me to work. And
hey, man.
And I ran for State House in 18 and 20. All that time was, I still have to depend on some prescription stuff, but at the same time, the pot's what allowed me to
the further you can get away from it.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it allowed me to get down to, the lowest limit of opioid type stuff that I need to be on. And my doctors, I've never had a single doctor, and I've been in some kind of chronic back. I've got a lot of back issues and have since I was 12. So it's not like this is a new thing. And I haven't yet to have a doctor tell me, and I'm honest as hell with them, to stop doing that.
Absolutely. Other than, if you do, you need to get a new doctor.
There were a couple that, the only reason they said anything is because they might have had to urine screen me at one point.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, do you have to look for this?
Yeah.
And if they were like, and I had one doctor who actually, he was trying to do everything the right way. And he just said, well, if you look at your explanation, and this was a decade ago, but he's like, if you look at your insurance explanation of benefits, you'll see that we have to urine screen you twice a year, and it's usually around the same time. And that's all he needed to say.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I need to cut back. And if it ever popped, I didn't know it because they never brought it up. But
right.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a ton of, we all know that now, even more so that as years have went on, that it's a medicine and it's good for you.
Oh yeah.
And, and then people are like, well, what about, anything in excess is not good.
Right.
Anything.
But you know what? As far as excess things go, if you're going to excess, that's the thing to do.
I still to this day have not found anyone that has OD'd from pot.
I don't think I think you would just go sleep.
When I ran for State House, I knew someone was going to bring that up, and I researched and I could not find an example anywhere.
Look, man,
that said this person.
No.
Now, you can kill somebody from driving a car if you're too stoned.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'd much rather have someone stoned behind a wheel than a drunk.
Oh, yeah. I'd much rather be around a bunch of
one's going 35
people.
And one's going 80.
a buddy of mine that we both know, I won't mention his name on the air, a buddy of yours, years ago, he told me, he said, you put a room full of stone folks together, and they're going to be best buddies.
Yep.
You put a room full of drunks together and you'll fight every time.
Yeah.
And I do not like the way I feel when I smoke pot. Yep. So I don't do it. But edibles, hey, I got dads on them. That tells you anything.
Hey, my dad tried them before he passed, and, that was the thing that helped him the most. Yeah. And it's frustrating because he also got urine screened. It's like, he's going to be dead in a year or two.
As a pastor? Did you say his?
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter, man.
Really?
It does not matter.
What do you mean? I'm missing something.
As far as you're talking about being urine screened?
Yeah.
Oh, it don't matter. Now, it wasn't from his job. It was from the doctor's office, but yeah.
Yeah. So
why is this?
Well, they'll take you off certain.
The opioid stuff is a different beast,
Well, I understand.
He was getting opioids, so they I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was trying to catch up.
Yeah, and they don't just do it for opioids. They do it for like Adderall and things. If you get urine screened and you're on THC, now I don't know how they're going to deal with this new stuff that's legal.
I can tell you right now, it's a huge problem, and I need to be careful here without disclosing too much about where I work.
We'll talk about that during the break.
Well, but you're right though. Yeah, and I'm sorry.
How are they going to discern that, okay, I bought this at the gas station versus and they're not? It's going to come up, but
it comes up already. Yeah. I know folks that have lost jobs.
Adderall is one of the drugs that the prescription drugs, if you have THC or whatever, they'll take you off of it. Because obviously they're one's crudely one's an upper and one's a downer. So I mean, anyway.
Hey, man.
Hey.
It sucks. If it helps you, for instance, if you are someone that cleans a building with a company, you're not driving a forklift.
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Not driving
Zero
a golf
risk.
Cart.
Right. For nothing.
Why do you care?
Yeah.
If they popped a drug screen, because with what you said, with the stuff you can buy over the counter in Tennessee now, you will pop a drug screen.
Oh, absolutely.
So why do you care?
And the other thing too about a drug like that, from what I understand, my limited knowledge is that long after the effects of the drug are affecting your judgment, let's say, you'll still test positive.
Yes.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
For me, because, okay, if you're not doing it while doing said job, I mean, it ain't a problem for me personally, but you know what I'm saying? If you're, like you just said,
well,
if I'm
frankly,
sweeping
it's
floors,
none of your employer's fucking business unless you're doing it when
Right.
you're in their job.
or unless, and realistically, employers, and I am one, you know, the DOT regulates that for drivers, which they
Right.
should. Okay. But they should
And I do
treat
appreciate
it.
that, yeah.
This is just my opinion. Which is very well informed on this subject, by God. If you have THC in your system, but you are not actively under the influence of THC, then you should be able to do it and be a truck driver. And I am in that business. So if
Well,
you don't
unless
like
you can
that,
follow me for, 24/7 for 28 days as a truck driver, then you know.
well, here's the thing: do a sobriety test just like you would with a DW with alcohol. I'll tell you this is that not to get off on a tangent away from the Jay Clark episode, but here's the deal.
Oh, I thought we were just talking anyway,
We
so I'm
are.
good with whatever.
But here's the deal is that the major obstacle for marijuana and THC use has been from the drug companies.
Yep.
They're like, hey, wait just a minute. You just undercut my, it's not going to affect people that are using Oxy on a high level because it's a different thing. But all these people down here that's having minor to medium pain management, you just lost their damn business.
Yep.
That don't need ibuprofen anymore.
That's right.
Tylenol.
Or antidepressants.
Or antidepressants.
Because listen, man, if, as you get older, like us, you start one, doctor, here's your blood pressure medicine. Next thing you know, you're having, like my great grandmother, she'd have a little tissue with her pills in it, and I got to take my pills, So they want you to add another pill about every
absolutely.
2 years. And I can tell you right now, had I had access to what I can get over the counter now, I wouldn't be on some of the stuff I'm on.
no, I 100% agree.
And now, Poe was talking about it because he's working for a dispensary part time. He was talking
Oh,
about
is?
Yeah, the one on Broadway. I forget the name of it.
The Blom shop.
Yeah. And
I just stopped by there the other day.
listen,
Delta 10 is where it's at, just for the record.
and I know you were, I was raised in church, hit the door every time it was open, buddy.
Oh, trust me, I did as well.
And if you're not taking THC products, you need to give it a whirl.
Yeah.
End of sentence.
If you can, I 100% agree with that.
And
I 100% endorse that message.
hey,
I took
Christians
we're
should
here,
be stoned.
and we are here to be agreed with.
and not like when they stoned
Whoever tried to anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but there was one they did get stoned to death.
Disciple, or
Yeah, probably Disciple. Post
there was a lady that got
Acts
stoned, I
later
know.
on.
At any rate,
There was
I should know that. I just can't remember.
Well, they think that lady that was going to be stoned was maybe Mary Magdalene. And then he came up and he wrote something in the dirt and they all walked away.
Yeah.
My opinion is, well, we're on some tangents today, but my opinion is he went up there and he being Jesus and wrote the names of all the people were stoning her, were sleeping with on the side.
Yeah.
That's what I think he did.
I got a song based on that verse called "Who's Gonna Cast a Stone?" And
Hey, but
I remember
Like
that.
I ain't done with it. I've been working on it for 20 fucking years.
I like it. I like
Well,
it
I took mom to the doctor yesterday, and
for all day.
Oh, it takes all day when
no,
caregivers are, man, that's one of the toughest things.
it's also though this particular place is they're just assholes. Fuck them
In the mouth.
Yeah, if you're in the medical profession, my time's important too. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
Mom had an appointment at 2:30. We're there at 10 minutes after, 15 after.
early.
Yeah, we're early. We get everything filled out, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait. I walked back in the door last night at 7:30. So I was from 1:30 when we had to leave here, because I like to leave plenty early because I can't drive like I normally would, because she's going to get nervous, you know, and I don't want her.
And it's about her.
Certainly not till you get to Rutledge Park.
It's not about me. And so, yeah, 7:30. And I had to fill out all the, the paperwork and all the bullshit. And
missed the ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
You just keep making this better.
I didn't think about that
I'm
part.
trying to
that's
shape
bullshit right there.
I knew
the context of the story.
I knew there was going to be a bunch of bullshit I had to ignore from that side of the table, but I should have known it.
I'm here every week.
We get there, we do all that stuff, and I'm filling out the thing, and they're like, "Oh, what about the medication? You got to list all the medications." And I'm like, I ain't writing all that shit. She's on like 11 different medicines. And
be easier to list what you want on.
Well, I just carry a list with me.
I was about to say, you just take you a printout. My dad was on 22.
You just need to photocopy this and put it with that.
Like
I'm not writing all that shit. So finally was able to get that done. But yeah, from 1:30 yesterday till 7:30. And of course, I'm thankful because we got, nothing but good news, and that was all great. But I would give anything if I could get her to try, just a
different
5
place.
or 10 milligram of something just to, because she's got chronic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammation, swelling all the time. And I know it would help her. I know it would help her feel better, And
she
it's just nothing that, no.
Well, even though now it's legal?
Oh, fuck off. No, she ain't doing it. Hey, folks, if you're looking for a cool, eclectic place with an outside patio, plenty of UT sports games, cold beer, and live music on the weekends, then look no further than one of our homes away from home, Trailhead Beer Market, located at 1317 Island Home Avenue in South Knoxville, Tennessee. Trailhead is South Knoxville's first beer market, situated on the banks of the Tennessee River and in the backyard of the Urban Wilderness and Iams Nature Center. You can find more info on Facebook and Instagram about specials, live acts, and the goings-on, and be sure to tell them McGill and Jamie sent you, and have one more for the good guys. So, no, you were talking about not ODing on pot. I got a funny one for you. So, it's well known that I like the edibles. And it's well known that I've seen the devil a few times on the edibles. And it's well known that I'm not really scared to see him a few times on the edibles. And a matter of fact, if they don't taste like transmission fluid, I probably don't want to eat them. You know what I'm saying? But the other night I was sitting here, and I've always had trouble shutting the machine off. Just being able to quiet my mind long enough to be able to sleep well, and I've been having this trouble. And a buddy of mine, Robbie, Robbie.
Yep.
He gave me an edible. He was like, "Here, man, take this gummy." Well, I got it, and it was a legitimate. It wasn't homemade, so I was looking for the milligram on it because I literally only wanted to go to sleep. I just was like, I'd had 2 or 3 long days, 2 or 3 rough nights of sleep, and it was like, man, I'm exhausted, and I really just want to pass out. And I could never find anything on the package, or whatever. So I just thought, well, fuck it. I'll eat half of it. I mean, that's safe, right? This is a 200 milligram
edible.
Messed you up.
and I ate, half of it. So, about 45 minutes to an hour, I was like, feel it. And I was like, all right, this is why I like it. Man,
about
this is
48
nice.
minutes in.
Yeah.
You're like,
And then
whoa.
about 20 minutes later after that, dude, I was going to get my glass of water. I had a TV tray sitting right beside me in that chair. I was watching a ball game or something. And I just was like,
Like a slug.
just like. And then I got it and I picked it up and I was like, I just had the shakes. I'm like, trying to drink. Any rate, I went deep that night. I went through some changes.
Well, my first, I never smoked pot, and except a couple times, and not until I was 31. I never tried. I'm 50 now, but until I was 31, I'd never tried to smoke pot, and it was only because I knew I was asthmatic. Well, when I was touring, there's this guy down in what was the name of that? It's in the Sequatchie Valley. He was up Little Sequatchie Creek there.
Okay.
And he was the political cartoonist for the Chattanooga Times, and he'd come to a couple shows and really liked my stuff, and we became friends. And he lived on this beautiful property up the end of the river there where it comes off the plateau. And his wife, I called him one day when I was coming through because he had bladder cancer. And I knew he was probably on his, it might be the last time I see him. And so I went by to see him. I called him and says, hey, I'm coming in from Chattanooga on my way back to where we lived in Alabama.
Okay.
And I want to stop to see John. So I go in there and we ate this huge lunch out of their garden. It was so awesome. And I drank a few beers. Well, he was on morphine drip at this point, and he died like 2 weeks later. But she was about to go to town, and I was headed back to where we were living in Alabama, which was still about an hour and a half away. And she gave me this. He says, give Jay one of those brownies to take back to, give him enough to take back to Stacy. Well, she brought me a brownie and she put it over on a saucer. In front of me, like,
right.
Here's your dessert. And he was going in, his morphine pump would go off about every 10 minutes. And he asked me if I'd stick around and watch a Braves game with him. I'm like, sure. Sunday afternoon. So we're sitting there. And at one point, he kind of comes to, and I've been there for an hour and a half after his wife left. She left, and he looks down and that brownie's gone. He goes, did you eat all that? And I said, yeah, why? And he goes, you need to stick around for a while. You may not be going home tonight. I'm like, okay, well, I feel fine right now, but it's fourth inning. I'll stick around.
Yeah.
So he kept dozing in and out, and I drank a couple more beers. And when the game was over, I still felt like I always had, and it had been a good hour and a half. And looking back, I know why it took so long, because we ate this humongous lunch out of their garden.
That's it.
And it took forever for that. So I get in my car and I told him, I'm like, instead of going up I-24 up to Monteagle and over that way, I'm going to get up. I'll go up the backside of the plateau by Foster Falls State Park. And if I feel the least bit stoned, I'll just get out and go sit
this
by the
is
falls.
going back home.
Yeah, to North Alabama. Which that's not home, but my home, where I lived in North Alabama, was near Huntsville. It's called a little town called Hazel Green. It was only 40 minutes from Winchester.
I used to live in Fayetteville, Tennessee.
Okay, so I grew up in Winchester, so you know where we're talking about. So it was Alabama, but not that much further. Too. And Johnny Majors, for that matter.
That crazy.
His youngest brother was my first football coach.
Wow.
But so I leave his house, and it's not 5 minutes until I'm like, I feel something. And it's new to me. You know what I mean? I've been drunk so many times, it doesn't matter, but it was new to me. And my feet started going up.
Did it sound something like this? Changes time.
All I know is I was going up this little 2-lane road up the plateau, and I got to this sign that said Foster Falls 2 miles. and there was already like 5 cars behind me.
Oh,
and
no.
I bet I was driving 10.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could not feel my fucking feet.
Yeah.
And then, I pull in there to this place and to the state park, and someone's having a family reunion, and the only spot's right in front of the pavilion. And you're sitting there going, I'm just going to wait this out. And then you start thinking, all right, all these people are looking at me because you're paranoid as hell.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to think I'm a pedophile. So I should get out and go to the bathroom. Well, then when I walk across the parking lot, go to the bathroom, you feel like you're wearing, diving flippers. And you feel like you're bozo walking across there. And then dude comes in the bathroom, you can't even talk to him. So long story short, I ended up that day, the Bradfords, who Mike knows really well.
Yeah.
I called my wife. She didn't answer. I barely had any. This is 2008, and I had a flip phone.
Yeah.
And I had one bar. So it was like, called Stacy, left her a message, called the Bradfords, left them a message. I was in the process of dialing my parents' number, which were only about 40 minutes away. And if they didn't answer, I was going to the damn ranger station behind me. I had no idea where I was headed. I had my guitar and all my sound equipment in the trunk because I'd been on the road for 2 weeks and I was headed home,
Yeah.
And it was bad. The Bradfords came and picked me up, and I thought I was going to die that day. I really did. But it obviously, that was a good experience to have for the first time, because now,
Yeah.
especially that I use it for medicine instead of just eating it because someone gave it to me.
Well, now it's like, don't feel that bad yet.
Yeah. Well, you milk it all day or surf it all day until you get home. And I do most of the cooking at the house, and then you start eating it some more, and you're like, by 9 or 10 o'clock, you don't make any sense, but who cares?
Well, we had we had this popcorn machine back when we had an office down on Sevier Avenue. Thank you. And
who had an office?
Me and Andy with the Romeos, we'd gotten an office and was trying to make a big push, on different things. And we had a break room area, and Robbie had gave us this popcorn machine. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool to have in here for, rehearsal nights, or if you got a writer's meeting or something, you could, it just seemed like a cool thing, you ain't got one. I got one, so it seemed cool to have. Well, then we figured out that, so we were making our own oil, like what you're talking about with your infusing yours with coconut oil. Well, you can do the same thing with sunflower oil, vegetable oil, whatever. Whatever kind of oil you want. Peanut oil.
And it encapsulates the THC. We can go over the chemistry some other day.
Right. Yeah. So I was just sitting there one night, and I was like, shit, I got a whole gallon of that oil down there under the cabinet. I'll make me some pot corn.
Oh, God.
And let me tell you, that's the best.
It pops.
It's great.
I've never tried that, but it sounds fun.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Because what you do, when you're eating popcorn, regular popcorn, you're just shoveling it in, and you're going to eat it all unless it's gone, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do. It's popcorn. So, it works really well when it's infused with THC oil, and you can't stop eating it, and you just keep on. But so on one of my trips to Hawaii, I went out and bought me, and then you can use this for your trip coming up. You just go out and get you one of those big bags of Skinny Pop or what the fuck ever. Go to Sam's, get one that's, the size of a goddamn barrel. Take all that shit out of there and make you some popcorn and fill that thing up. Hot glue it back together.
Walk stay away from any dogs.
No, they ain't gonna do nothing. It's popcorn.
Yeah.
And so I've had several flights over the Pacific that my tray was in the upright position. I'll put it that way.
Well, Stacy's in Sweden right now,
and they're great.
She just left yesterday morning. She's there with Kim Bradford.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
what'd they go over there for?
Stacy works for the U.S. Forest Service. She's a federal employee.
Right.
Fuck the Forest Service. But anyhow, they're just bureaucratic, hard to deal with. Whatever. But no, she's in charge of part of it's the biggest international forestry conference
Okay.
in the world. So she went over there to run a day's worth of something.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting her over in Norway. The laws in Sweden are a little more restrictive than Norway. So I wanted to go to Norway more than Sweden. And after reading the drug laws, it's like, which is still more strict than we are. You know, like I can't take our CBD in there in a normal probably. So yeah, we'll see. If I end up in a Norwegian prison, we'll do a show from there.
We'll bring you some
popcorn.
We'll bring you some rotten fish.
Oh my God, that fermented shit.
Yeah, we'll bring you some fermented fish and THC.
Man,
we'll drop it in.
When I did bear research for about 13 years, and I met some bear biologists from Norway.
Yeah,
and I almost went to grad school over there at one point. And I'm trying to remember the name, but they brought this. It was in a regular old sardine can, but that thing was swollen.
Yeah,
I mean, it looked like if you touched it, it was going to blow up like a landmine. And my professor at the time, his name is Mike Pelton. He told the guy from Norway, says, if you're going to open that shit up, you need to go out in the yard. And I just was like, this guy was 30 feet from us.
Can't be that bad.
He's opened that shit up. Oh my God. It smelled like a fish factory where you just threw out all the guts. And so then, you know, of course, being in your mid-20s, you're challenged. Like, let's see who can eat this. And of course, my professor, now looking back, it's like I would have done exactly what he did. He was probably a little older than me at the moment, but, you know, 55, 60. And just enjoy watching these young, dumbass students of his go, I bet I can eat that. There's one guy that was able to swallow it and not throw up. This is awful.
God,
this is the worst shit I ever put in my mouth.
My dad.
You have to be really desperate to eat that. That's all I got to say.
Gordy loves it. He's, you know.
Really?
Yeah, he's Norwegian. His ancestry, but yeah, he loves that, whatever the fuck it's called, rotten fermented fish.
Yeah, I'll think of it here in a minute.
Yeah, but my dad back in the day used to we'd go fishing, and he would take, you know, you take your snacks and your lunch, your bologna sandwich, you know,
and a sausage,
classic. What is it? Rackfish.
Ah, that's it. Yep.
But he would take sardines and he'd eat them, you know, and it'd be 110 degrees in August, sitting in the middle of the boat, middle of the water. It ain't a breeze fucking blowing nowhere, you know, just one of those days. And sit there and eat that whole can of sardines. And then just to give you a little extra, he'd take a few saltine crackers and crumble it up.
And eat it with a spoon.
And make and eat the fucking juice and the saltine crackers.
Yeah.
You know, then make fun of you because you didn't eat it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, man, if you're a bear researcher in at least the Southeast, you know, and like when you're hiking 8 miles into somewhere to try to trap a bear at a campground or a campsite, you know, in the backcountry, the easiest bait you can take is sardines.
Yeah.
The problem is if that bear don't show up or you don't catch it, you know, and that shit sits there for 3 or 4 days, man, you will not eat sardines.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I mean, it's just awful.
I ain't eating them little hairy fish anyway. I ain't doing it.
I'll suck an oyster out of a shell, but I won't do that.
I ain't eating no damn oysters either. I'll eat like a fried oyster, like a po' boy or something, but I ain't eating no damn raw oysters.
Yeah.
You think you got to swallow 6 times before it'll stay down? I can't do it.
Or if you can cough it up and do the same thing, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't doing it. I can't do it. I know lots of folks that love them. Steamed, baked, raw, whatever,
I don't like them.
You know, God wanted me to be a fucking otter. I could swim better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I ain't eating no damn oysters. I ain't eating no damn shrimp either.
You don't like them at all?
Fuck a bunch of shrimp. Cockroach of the sea.
They are. I
can't.
But cockroaches would have a lot of protein if they tasted
Yeah,
better.
but I can't
It's
do
good
it.
smoke, man.
Oh, yeah, that's
So what do you have in there?
This is that Fuente Don Carlos. It's a Cameroon wrapper.
Over Dominican binder and fillers.
What are the wrappers made of?
Well,
The wrapper is the outside leaf
yeah, and
that you're actually
But it's still
looking
tobacco.
at.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, it's an
but
actual
grown in
leaf.
Cameroon,
I'm
Africa.
telling you, I don't know a damn thing about
Yeah.
cigars.
We're
Yeah.
trying to help.
Thank you.
But yeah, these are. This is the first Don Carlos I've had, and it's
An African grown Cameroon leaf.
Yeah.
So
pretty
it's
impressive.
It's very different. They're a little smaller. The leaves are a little smaller on the Cameroon plants. They're a little thinner, but Fuente has got that blend of, he does Cameroon probably just about good, or if not better than anybody. But like when you clip that, so like when Jamie cut that cigar, cut the cap to where he was getting ready to smoke it, you could take a cold draw off of that cigar, and I shit you not, my right hand tastes just like a fucking gingerbread cookie.
It does.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like I smoked
Without even lighting it.
without even lighting it, you'd think you were getting ready to eat a gingerbread cookie. It's got all that flavor in there.
And it's still that way now. It's,
2 nights ago, I smoked a double-aged vintage, 12-year-old vintage Perdomo is the cigar maker. And I shit you not, the whole time I smoked that, it tasted like, and I'm thinking anybody that's not even got a discerning palate, or somebody that's not used to trying to pick up flavor notes or different things out of stuff, there's no way you wouldn't have known that this was a milk chocolate, salted caramel, coffee,
Really?
and a little black pepper.
Huh.
And it was just,
That sounds pretty good.
it was fucking delicious, man.
makes
it
my
was just-
acid reflux want to crank up.
zero calories.
Yeah, that's the
So
other
that's the thing, man. We all got our little,
But-
vices, and they all have their own little problems.
Yeah. But I laid the cigarettes down several years ago, and we actually got really healthy during the pandemic. Hell, I lost 70-something pounds and was feeling really,
still
really
look good.
good. Well, thanks, man. Everybody knows you're a
I'm not
liar.
gonna go to bed with you, but I got my little Buddha bump too.
Huh?
I got my little Buddha bump too. I mean, if I quit drinking beer, I could be back to what I looked like in
Yeah.
high school. But I just,
Yeah.
How
I
old
hear
are you?
52.
About you, Jamie?
50. I'll be 50 this year.
Okay, that's right.
74.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just turned 50 myself. So yeah.
Okay.
My biggest problem is my back is. Well, I've had a bunch of tests here recently, and they're like, "Yeah, your back's like a 90, 100-year-old man." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that because I feel it."
Yeah.
Ain't nothing worse than back pain.
Oh, I
Either.
fuc't hate it, and
Nothing.
it's I've got a lot of nerve issues too, so
Oh, golly.
it's just one thing after the other. But I can't. I had foot surgery. I had my left big toe fused in December because my right foot doesn't. I walk like I have a flipper on my right foot, even when I'm not stoned. Because I have what's called drop foot, and that's from nerve damage from a staph infection I got after my second spinal fusion when I was 28. Had my first one when I was 19. And so they did a third surgery to kind of go in there and see what they could do to clean things up. And they took out all my screws and shit. And they're like, well, your back's pretty much fucked up. And this is a pain management issue. I was 28, and they're like, this is a pain management issue. And you just need to understand that and treat your life accordingly. And when you have doctors tell you got to do everything physically you want to do before you're 60, you're like, bullshit. I'm still doing all this stuff. Now I'm starting to go, all right, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
But that said, it's one of those things you adapt with. And I'm very aware that there are a lot of people that when I start feeling sorry for myself and we all have our own crosses to bear. You shouldn't discount them,
Oh, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I'm good. I'm ready to have another surgery if they want to do it because I want to be able to move my foot again. But yeah.
It's like on back surgery once they start, man, it's like they keep going, don't they? Yeah.
Well, it never stops. So
I had my L4 and L5 herniated back when I was probably about 23, 4, 5, somewhere around in there.
I had that fused when I was 28.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And mine was just from the jobs that I had been doing all my life up until that point. I was lifting, I could be handling 10,000 pounds a day, over repetition. But nonetheless, if you put a total weight on it.
It's no different than counting steps.
Yeah, exactly.
People do that constantly. It's like, think about how much those guys that, roofers and bricklayers and
oh my God,
I ran into
Coca-Cola man, Pepsi guy, UPS guy.
I was at the pharmacy today, and there was this guy sitting there. I don't know how we got in a conversation, but he's like, "Yeah, I was a bricklayer for 20 years, and now I'm disabled because I don't know how to read and write."
Right.
And
2024.
Exactly. And this guy's younger. He looked younger than me. Well, I'm assuming he's younger than me. He's about our age anyway. And, that goes back to a lot more issues beyond.
Sure.
I don't blame that guy for that. That's a failure of our system. And
but you are living in a time, too, where not being able to read and write is probably not as big a handicap as it once was.
Nope.
Because everything you can get an audio for or a visual for. And they don't even teach regular cursive handwriting anymore. So,
but you got to have access to all that, and that's the big thing too. If you live out in a rural community and don't have access to,
and have to go to work when you're 10 or whatever, got to leave school.
Tough.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of issues.
The only life that anybody, if we went by, it was the only life they knew. The people they were learning from, or the people they were studying from, or the people that they were under, like grandma, grandpa, mom, daddy, on down the line, aunt, uncle, they did this all their life.
And those are skills. Like being able to read and write are skills, but it kind of, there's a lot of that.
But to some people that it would have been easier to go out. And I've said this a million times, but it'd just be easier to think you could go out in the backyard and build a rocket ship.
Yeah.
With a couple of coat hangers and a side grinder or something, because it was the furthest thing away that I think back on that a lot, like when we've talked about it before, but like guidance counselors and stuff back when we were in school. I don't know if I'd have said I wanted to get into media, or if I'd have wanted to do broadcast journalism or something like that. I don't know if they would have ever even had a clue to tell me
what to do.
How you would have even started to do it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, from being from a rural high school myself, I don't know how they would know that. Now, I'll tell you this, and this is where I think Tennessee fucked up, was the high school that I came from, the vocational building was 2/3 the size of the rest.
Yeah.
And I got friends of mine that never intended on going to college, never wanted to go to college, and they didn't need to go to college. They've been making 6 figures since they were 20 years old welding, and it's like that there isn't, for whatever reason, for a long time, I think our society was like, well, if you really want to be successful and be respected, you need to go to college.
COVID ended that. COVID stopped that.
COVID was the thing that put the exclamation point on it, like going, hey, we've been sending all this shit to China and other places for years.
Yeah.
We have people that can do this. We need to get back to training them. And I'm 100% behind all that. And I'm a college professor. And that doesn't mean that in any kind of elite way. It just means that when I see kids come through my classes, there are some, they have talents, but yet.
Well, absolutely.
But it's like, hey, every once in a while, and this is not a lot of kids, but every once in a while, you kind of want to go, all right, you seem like a really bright kid, but you are not the least bit interested in.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times because, mom and dad told me I need to come to college.
Or society told you that.
That's what I mean, yeah.
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 And I just don't, I'm not trying to degrade a college education, but at the same time, our society is successful not because of college educations. Our society is successful because people want to go work and want to learn a skill and be good at it.
Yeah. And I think the middle class, everybody was talked into believing that everybody was going to be middle class, and a lot of these skilled jobs or even unskilled jobs, blue collar jobs, were looked down upon. And I don't want to be a janitor. Well, you can go be a janitor at Buc-ee's and make $21 an hour right now. No education. And I think that was a mistake. I think that, like you said, we talked more than one generation into believing that if you don't go to college, you're not good. You're no good.
And again, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's again, I work out of the president's office at Maryville College. So, we live and die. We only have like 1,200 students, and we live and die by every single one of them. But that doesn't mean.
Well, it's classic.
And it's the stigma with it sometimes too. And I think that's even getting better because nowadays, if you go to college, people look at you as quote unquote privileged.
Right.
And versus wanting to work. And I think they're all the same. It's just a matter of smarter, not harder. Let's figure it out. Well, of course you gotta have fucking both.
You got to have people that are making stuff and have skilled labor. And you have to have people that have higher education in order to do, higher mathematics or whatever the job requires. I just think that the big mistake is that the class system is that, okay, because when we were going to school, if you didn't go to college, then you're a dumbass.
Right.
Right.
Or at least that's how a lot of people looked at you.
Right. Or you were just going to be, we look down upon you. Not directly.
You're going to have a factory job.
Yeah. What do you mean? You're going to work at, you're going to work at Denso.
Exactly. That's about to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, that was a mistake,
That was a big mistake.
And now since COVID, one of the very few good things came out of it is that now you can make just about as much without going to college.
Yep.
So.
Well, I can give you tons of examples of that.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a society too, and back then and coming through, and we're still in it, that we want to champion all these fucking people and all these fucking causes and all these ideas before we even have an idea that it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But boy, we'll be the first ones in ringing the bell and championing that course.
Well, and I kind of get some of that. It's like, people aren't going to be able to do what they want to and what we need them to as a society if they're not respected. And I get that part. That said, I'd like to think I respect most people. I'm like everybody else. I have my own faults. But it's not about that part of their life. It's about, you want to go work or not?
Yeah.
You know, are you willing to learn a skill and go participate in how our society works or not?
Well, and where I was going with that was just the fact, I'll just take me for myself, for instance. If I would have stuck with everything I studied in school and put my efforts on, which was music, my life probably would have looked a lot different in those first 8 to 10 years that I worked. All these other, everywhere I worked, I hated. I mean, I ain't ever been fond of work to begin with, just so everybody's clear about that bullshit.
Well, because you work doing music and that's your work.
No, and I understand, but what I'm saying is looking back on it, if I would have stayed the course on continuing my musical studies, I probably wouldn't have found myself in a lot of those other things, because that's what I felt like you had to do.
Right.
Because I came from watching a dad who went to work regardless.
Yep.
Every day, 8, 10, 12, whatever. Need me to work overtime, I'll work over, and that was my, what do you say? That was my example.
Yeah.
And, that's what I thought that you had to do, in a lot of ways, to when, if I probably would have just stayed with my musical studies, who knows? I could have been playing
You'd be a director of music at a church.
I could be a director of music at a church.
Which
I could have been playing
as hell, but yeah, I'd go there.
I've been there.
I know you have. That's what I'm saying. I'd go there. I home church.
But I could have been playing in a concert choir. I could have been playing in an orchestra. I could have gotten, you know what I'm saying? There's just and I never realized that. I just thought that this was what you did. And by going that way, I spent probably 7 or 8 years of just hating every fucking thing I did. I hated it.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy it. Didn't like, I mean, it was fine.
Paid
but
bills.
It wasn't what I wanted to do. And then once I got the opportunity to take a chance, and it was at any other time, and if I'd had somebody there telling me, it was at the time in my life that there was no way I should have been able to go and do what I did. It was not feasible. Single dad, going to play music for a living, quitting a regular job, blah, blah, blah. It just seems like a recipe for disaster, right? But then you look back on it at the age I am now, and I'm like, okay, I never made it to the Opry stage, but I've done this and I've done that, and I've got a lifetime worth of experiences, and I ain't got a single regret about any of it.
And your butthole is not a bigger diameter than it's supposed to be, but from you trying to get to the Opry stage.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's no offense to people that made it there. It's just,
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
But
hey, good guys and good gals alike. If you're looking for somewhere to go to get your hair did, then look no further than the Chop Shop Hair Studio. Our longtime friend and supporter, Cindy Lou, opened this spot located in Knoxville's very own Happy Holler back in 2010. Chop Shop Hair Studio offers a variety of services, including facial waxing, accessories, tools, and a complete line of men's and women's products, along with essential oils. A lover and supporter of the musical arts here locally and abroad, Cindy has a small stage with stringed instruments and offers discounts to guests if they are willing to play and or sing a song. The Chop Shop Hair Studio is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and 100% pure style, just like our dear friend and owner, Cindy Lou. The hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also visit thechopshophairstudio.com and or call 865-525-4240 to book your next visit to go and get your hair did. Located at 1206 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, Chop Shop Hair Studios. Stop by and tell them McGill and Jamie sent you to have one more for the good guys.
So you said you went to a rural high school. Which one?
Franklin County.
Franklin County.
Are we on?
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure.
Yeah, we are on.
Franklin County, by God. Now, we were the Franklin County Rebels. Our fight song was Dixie. And until my senior year, they put Confederate flags up across the top of the stadium. My senior year, we were number 1 in the state in AAA, which was the highest classification at the time.
At that time, yeah. There's 5 now, and there's 5 different ones.
Well, and it's bullshit how you get to playoffs, but yeah, it was. They used to give us Confederate flag hand towels. You know, I was a receiver and a punt returner and a return kickoff. So
right.
That was that. Yeah.
So you would have graduated in 92.
Yep. We went to the quarterfinals that year, and we should have won it all, but we actually had an issue. We lost a game we shouldn't have.
Can you lower that just a bit?
What's that? Oh, yeah. We had a game that we lost that we shouldn't have. And long story short, it became a racial issue. And all the black students, which our high school was only 8% black, but luckily our high school football team was about 30% black. and they all walked out one day. And in hindsight, I agree with them. You know, at the time, I was just focused on playing football, you know, and it is like the next day, all my, and I don't mind saying this, but all my redneck friends walked out in protest to them walking out. And it just turned into this big ass mess.
Yeah.
You know, and people ask me sometimes, like, if there's one thing you could change in your life, not your life. Well, yeah, I guess your life. What would it be? And one of them would be, I'd rather lose my virginity to someone else than I did. And the other was, you know, probably that when those black players on my high school football team boycotted a game, and most of them did not want to do that, but they were kind of forced to. You know, there were some threats and stuff in the community, and I'm not bashing the black community at all, because they, in hindsight, they had every right to be upset. But I would have boycotted that game with them. That's my biggest regret.
Were they boycotting over the rebel flags and stuff?
It wasn't just the rebel flag. It was you know, Dixie. I mean, my high school diploma still has the Stars and Bars on it.
Oh,
you know, and I do not read novels. I read textbooks, history, biographies, science. I mean, I'm a scientist. So, you know, over the years, from the reading that I've done about things that I didn't know about when I was 16 and 17, you know, you're kind of like, you know what? I'd have done that differently if I know what I know now.
Oh,
and that's what regrets are about.
Yeah, you know? I got 1,000 of those.
Yeah. But, so yeah, not to get all political and all that with that, but it took 15 or 20 years, but eventually I'm like, damn, that was an opportunity I had that I just didn't.
Right.
And when people say opportunity, they're like, what do you mean? To enhance your career? No, it's just the opportunity to potentially.
Opportunity for you as a younger man, learn and understand why you are and who you are.
And where my friends were the position they were in. Because they just wanted to play football too.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I was one of the only white kids I knew in my town that their parents allowed to go stay at black kids' homes, you know. And admittedly, 2 out of the 3 that I went to stay with were in, little single wide trailers in what we considered the black part of town.
Yeah.
And this was a town of 7,000 people. So, you know, it's not like when you say the black part of town, you're talking about a big group of folks. But yeah, if I could go back and change some things, those would probably be, other than that, I have no regrets. Because you learn from your mistakes, and even in those situations, you learn from your mistakes.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with that. Is it would have, the only thing it would have done would have taught you a lesson sooner about who you are now, and what you stand for now. And you would have got that opportunity.
Well, and as a 16 and 17-year-old who had been in a cohort of you
got brain damage till you're 28.
Yeah.
If you're a man.
But of athletic friends, it's like we grew up playing Little League together and all that stuff. And I didn't think about those guys being black or white. But
yeah, it's funny. You don't think about it until somebody says something about it.
But also later on in life, I understand where not they were coming from, because they were ignorant just like I was, I think, but maybe where some of the parents were coming from. It's like, hey, this is 1991 back then. We should be able to figure this out a little bit, and my son shouldn't have to run out of the field house and run through the band and the sign that the cheerleaders hold playing a song that absolutely, even though they don't know what it is or stands for, it's all that stuff. And it gets, and I know that gets a little more political maybe than we're trying to get, but it doesn't matter about the facts, because the facts don't really matter. It matters what people feel, and if you're an American, you should feel like an American. And if you're a black person and I try to think about being a dad of a son on that team. If you're sitting on the kind of the edge of the stadium and you're one of the few black folks in the stands, and that's what you witness, as a celebration of your son, I could get that, and I didn't get that back then.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to get all deep about that.
No, it's fine. I mean, hey, that was in 1991. It's 2024.
Right. And
you just met somebody who couldn't read and write.
Yeah.
So you don't think that there's still racial tension and racial issues?
Oh, tons. And a guy that couldn't read and write was a white dude, by the way, just to be clear. Yeah.
But I'm getting, what I'm saying is we're not absolved. We're not removed from.
Hell no.
Just because it's, this is when Buck Rogers was fucking shot.
And I think we forget as Americans sometimes that we are an extremely young country. I mean, as a scientist and more specifically as a biologist and someone who loves natural history, I mean, you think about Europe. I'm going to Norway next week. Yeah, my wife and I are staying in this little cabin with a thatched roof. That's the only way we could afford it, by the way. Has no electricity, no running water. Because I remember when I looked at the Airbnb thing, I'm like, how in the hell is it this cheap? There's got to be a catch, because you had all these views. But anyhow, that's a different story. But I guess
Miami Vice, the number one show.
but yeah, it's one of those things that I think you wake up to later on when you have a chance to. With age comes wisdom, and
absolutely,
And wisdom doesn't mean it's a fact. It just means it makes you think differently, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point too. Okay, so Winchester, you played ball. I know a little bit of this backstory, but for everybody listening at home, Dad was a minister, Methodist minister.
Nope.
Is that right? Presbyterian?
Cumberland Presbyterian.
Cumberland Presbyterian,
which is important to mention if you're a Presbyterian,
And
because
why is that?
Presbyterians.
Did they not stand up and sit down so much?
So, well, that
What the
Presbyterian Church of America, or PCA, is the more conservative wing of the Presbyterian.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say denomination because they're their own sect, if you will, but Christianity. And then you have the Presbyterian USA, which is very much to what I guess a lot of folks these days in Tennessee anyway would say the far left. And Cumberland Presbyterian were kind of in the middle. And they broke away from the Presbyterians in the 1800s over predestination. And they happened to be in the Cumberland Mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky, so they called it Cumberland Presbyterian.
Which side of predestination were they?
They were on the side of not being predestined.
Gotcha.
That was, if from my understanding, that was more of a Presbyterian Church of America. And so I work at Maryville College. I've taught biology there for 13 years as a part-time professor by choice. And now I'm their director of environmental sustainability initiatives, but still part-time by choice. And, you know, they're very much considered like the more of a liberal denomination. So there's a big swath there.
Gotcha.
You know, kind of like Church of Christ. You know, they have, well, of course, if you're not Church of Christ, you ain't going to heaven. But anyhow, that's a different story. But they also have a wing of the Church of Christ that broke apart. You know, I think it's United Church of Christ. And so it's kind of that same concept.
I think every denomination has had this breaking apart situation.
If you're, you know, I know what the definition of a Christian is, and that's all that matters to me personally for my faith, you know. My parents gave me the best foundation I could possibly have. I mean, it was like Leave It to Beaver. I just never had, we didn't have a lot of money, but I never worried about my parents splitting any of that. But at the same time, it's kind of like when I look at where we're at now, I realize how fortunate I was, you know, with that regard. My parents taught me how to love people.
Right.
Maryville College, I have to admit, when I went there as a freshman, because I was a student there, I just finished my freshman year 31 years ago, you know, this May. And I didn't graduate from there, but I went there for 2 years out of 11 and a half years of college. But those 2 years meant more to me. That they shaped me. They taught me how to love everybody. And I'd never met a gay person in my life until I was sitting in a class at Maryville College. Or at least someone that was openly gay.
Yeah, I met my first openly gay person in college too.
And
I mean, I met, you know, in high school we had some people, but it wasn't something they would say, hey, you know.
Well, and I gave the sermon at Maryville College. We have a covenant with Presbyterian USA, but that's about it. So no one's required to go to chapel or whatever, but we have chapel every Tuesday. And I got asked to come give a chapel sermon, if you will, about a year ago. And I brought an essay that I wrote in one of my religion classes, because I started out as a religion major at Maryville College. And it was called Why Homosexuality is Wrong in the Eyes of God. And it was written just like you would expect it to be written. And when I read that now, I'm not embarrassed by it. It's just, I go, damn, I really didn't know as much as I thought I knew about my fellow humans.
It's like that old Mark Twain quote. When I called my dad one year on Father's Day, and I said, I just ran across this quote, and I said, I wanted to read it to you when I wished you Happy Father's Day. And of course, my dad was, the type to be like, well, get on with it. Let's hear it,
It's not like, thanks, son.
Yeah. I know. And so I read it, and it said, when I was 17, the old man didn't know anything.
Dumbest guy I knew. Right?
Dumbest guy I knew. But by the age of 21, my, how much he had learned. And it was obviously it's a complete reflection of him being 21 now versus 17 and how much you learn in those years, and with wisdom, like you were talking about earlier. But,
you just got to be exposed to some things. And again, that doesn't mean you accept everything as right or wrong with your religion. But if you're gonna preach your religion, be aware that not everybody subscribes to that.
Well, if you're going to have an opinion and a strong one at that, and you're going to be someone who takes a stand on said strong opinion and or fact or whatever else you want to call it, or you want to factor into it, then you probably should know a little bit about all the other stuff as well, or you're really not making
the impact,
or you're not making a very good decision for yourself either, because out of your own ignorance, and ignorance doesn't mean that you're someone that's incapable of learning or someone who's a dummy. It just means that you don't know any better.
Right.
And that also could factor over into being called a lazy person too.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to know.
Well,
and you're hung up on, that belief. And it's just no way of learning and or being able to know about culture, know about people, know that things in this life, regardless of whether ours or yours or his or hers was black or white, or it was this or it was that, that's just not the case. That ain't the way life works.
And along the same lines of what you're talking about and what you're saying about Mark Twain, I was reading an article today, actually, about Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've seen Terrence Howard, the actor.
Mm-hmm.
But here lately, Terrence Howard has been on some really, he was on Rogan the other day.
Yeah. Evidently he's
out there.
Yeah.
With some ideas and stuff. And some of it's pretty cool.
Talking about Tyson?
No, Howard.
Okay.
And he sent, an essay or some of his findings or his thoughts to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he entitled it 1 + 1 is not 2, I think is the name of it. And so Tyson reads the whole thing. It was like 36 pages. He said, I read every word of it. And he said, although there's some interesting ideas there was some scientifically inaccurate stuff, and he made comment to this. This was a Twitter thing that happened here a while back or whatever. But the point being is a lot of people, and he mentioned this, and there's some kind of syndrome it's called, or effect, is when you know a little bit about a subject, but because you know a lot about a little, you think you know a lot about a lot.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was talking about that, how you can fall into the trap of being very well versed on this portion of a subject, and then all of a sudden think you're an expert.
Yep.
And then he went on to talk about the flat earthers and all this and how, so anyway, it goes along the same lines. It's like, when you're ignorant, you just don't know, right? And once you start educating yourself or teaching yourself or getting some experience under your belt or just interacting with people, then all of a sudden you're not ignorant anymore, you know?
Well, and that's the thing.
And that's a word. Reason I just, not to interrupt, but the reason I said that is because that's a word that gets tossed around a lot.
Ignorant.
People don't really know the fucking real meaning.
Ignorant is not an insult necessarily.
No,
it just
no.
means you don't know.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at. When my parents taught, when I say my parents taught me how to love everybody.
I just hit it back to you,
I
pal.
get you. No, they told me, they taught me how to love everybody.
Yeah.
I've been around both their families. There's no African Americans roughly in their county. So, and my parents they were in high school in the mid 60s. So,
Right.
and neither one of them, I never heard my mom or dad say the N word or anything, but I heard it from both their families. And it's like, I understand about different times, and we have to take that into consideration. I'm not talking about forgiveness so much as just a little bit of mercy, maybe.
Well, exactly. It's like, I don't know. Apparently I read the right things today, but I read this other article about Abraham Lincoln. Okay. And 10 things that you didn't know about Abraham Lincoln, and about how 10 negative things about how he had said that if he could save the Union and not free any of the slaves, he would. Or if he could save the Union and free half the slaves. It's like a lot of these people, these critics, if you will, they look back on something with a microscope. That's at this point, 170 years ago, right? The guy's been dead nearly 161 years. And, and look back on it as a critic, having had 160 years plus to think about the choices that Lincoln had to make on the spot, and then start poking holes in it.
Well, and when you think about saying the Emancipation Proclamation, I don't care what any criticism you want to have about Lincoln, for him to stand up there at that time and to say what he did, that takes some fucking balls.
Hey, just go out on the street corner and say it.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Take some balls,
in
man.
today's time. Now, we're not talking about looking down the barrel of old Betsy facing the nation.
Yeah.
But to take a stand on what you believe just in today's time, just out on the street corner or anywhere else in your daily walk. Yeah.
You won't cancel y'all's podcast, just say something you're not supposed to.
Can't get canceled if you don't have an audience. So.
Well,
we're still in the building
about
phase.
That is I also think there are plenty of audiences out there, and I include myself in this. I don't cancel anybody.
No.
I mean,
because you've made mistakes yourself.
Well, I have, but at the same time, Stacy, which she hates it when I talk about her on the stage, but we're on a podcast, so I'll go for it. I mean, we're on the same side of the aisle.
We're going to have her on next. So
okay, that's okay.
You say anything.
Well, get ready, buddy. Because all right, anyhow, I'll just leave that there. Mm-hmm. But it's like,
that's a smart thing to do.
When she and I do not differ politically much at all, how we go about those politics, we differ greatly. And that there's no criticism in that, because we're in different positions, And Stacy was the one who encouraged me to run. I ran for State House in 2018 and 20. I have a PhD minor in statistics. I knew my chances. It wasn't going to happen.
In that county, especially.
Oh, for God's sake. There's been one, and I
lived there for 17 years.
With all due respect, and I am very much a moderate. Very much a moderate. I could care less what party I'm with. But I also wasn't going to lie to everybody. So, because 7 times out of 10, I vote Democrat. So I had a D by my name, which automatically there's been one Democrat that's ever won the seat I ran for since the Civil War. So that kind of goes back to what you're saying. But I think our biggest problem right now is people there's a lot of folks who I don't think paid attention to politics as much as perhaps they should over the years. But yet now they are. And I think that's a great thing. My problem is, I think, you can't treat politics like you do celebrities. And that applies to both sides, but it's just really tough. So Stacey and I listen to and I always have a ton, as much of a music person as I am. I listen to more talk radio than I do music.
Yeah. I
and
would
if you
say
listen
that's
to any
me
talk,
too.
and I'm not talking about podcast, I'm talking about that you hear on the basic FM dial or even AM dial, and it is not the way I think. And when it's my faith based, it's certainly not the way I think.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important to understand as much as you can the other side if you truly want to make an impact or a difference. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I'm supporting some people in Blount County right now that are running for office that don't have the same letter next to me that I had at one point. And I have some people probably mad at me about it. But you know what? There are people who have skills to help us 100 years from now, 50 years from now. And I have some of those too, but I want to make an impact. So if I go run for state house as a Democrat and I run like a lot of Democrats would want me to run, I'd completely disenfranchise myself from the other side. And people go, well, it's not about sides. Well, in Blount County, when you have 21 county commissioners and every damn one of them have an R by their name.
It is.
Yeah. I don't want to isolate. I want to be able to work with those people. And I think that's the difference today is everybody wants you to choose a side and be loud and screaming at each other. Well, but in reality, it's a matter of, hey, we have a lot more in common than we
uncommon. Yeah.
And
he says that all the time.
And just because I have a PhD and work at a college doesn't mean that I can't understand the working people.
Tell him what I said. Tell him.
Oh yeah. Well, he was talking about how he said multiple times about how that he's been all over, and he's found a lot more good people than he has bad people, regardless of the letter after their political affiliation. And something you said that made me think about people getting involved in politics. One mistake that I think people make in general is they're much too concerned with federal politics and not nearly as concerned with local politics as they should be.
Absolutely.
Because, the local politicians, especially your commissioners and whatever, have much more immediate effect upon your life and your community than, say, the president. The
president doesn't decide whether you keep your farm or not.
Yeah, that's not certainly correct. That's correct. And he doesn't decide whether or not your property tax is going to go up.
Right.
Or things that you're going to be directly, immediately affect. Now, there's no doubt that federal politics has a global effect and a trickle down effect, not to rob the trickle down economics thing, but you see what I'm saying? It's that way, but nobody seemingly is as concerned with local politics as they should be.
Right.
And, that's a problem.
Yep.
Because it's much more impactful to have a local, representative, that you can physically and, you see at the grocery store and say, hey, I had that experience actually in Blount County one time where I was able to reach out to a politician. I'll just tell the story. I won't name their names, but I lived in Rockford for 17 years. Okay.
My home, yes.
And still have a house there that we rent. Love that community. I think that the Wildwood area might be the prettiest part of East Tennessee. I just love it over there.
And still real.
Yeah. maybe the biggest deer in Tennessee.
And that comes
East
from
Tennessee.
people that didn't vote for me probably when I ran, but
And maybe not.
They're real. And that's what I'm getting. They're real. They're fucking real.
And I know the person I talked to definitely didn't vote for you. But I was there one day with a friend of mine. It was on a weekday and I was working. I worked from home and we were out smoking cigar. And he said, "Hey man, they're putting speed bumps up here or they're repaving your neighborhood." And we had where I lived up off of White Pine Lane there, that we had some speed bumps in there and we didn't want them, because it was a little bitty road and we didn't need them. So I called up Rockford City Hall and got the lady there. And I said, "Hey, you're paving over here. Is there any way they can just forego putting these speed bumps back in?" She goes, "There ain't no way that's going to happen. They were paving that day, buddy. They were that day." So I got, at that time, the Rockford mayor.
It's probably Cola. It's been the same one forever.
100% chance it was him.
Yep.
And
nice guy, by the way.
Yes, in real estate business. They've been landlords of mine before. Always done me right. He called me up on the phone, buddy. Wasn't 30 minutes after she called. He said, "Hey, is this Jamie?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Got a call about that, and I've called in to them and told them to take those speed bumps out." My God, they took them out that day. I never seen politics work that fast in my life.
Well, and that's the thing.
And my point is that, look, folks, if you're voting and you're into politics, you need to start at home first.
You know how many people are going to show up to vote for that office?
Yeah.
We're talking like
7.
Well, a little more than that, but less than
17. 500
easy.
Yeah.
And that's if it's a presidential election in Rockford. So it doesn't take that much. I mean, Mike's right. I mean, seven people can change that whole damn thing.
Well, that's right. And see, there's another thing, audience, is that, listen, currently, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference who you vote for president.
Yep.
At all in Tennessee.
Nope, it doesn't.
Because listen, I know you don't like it.
And I'm not in favor of the guy that's going to win.
Listen, I'm not going to talk about political affiliations, but I'm just telling you right now, if you're in Tennessee, you're voting for Trump, 100% chance. Okay. It don't matter. That's called the Electoral College. End of sentence. Your vote matters locally.
Yep.
Big time. Like a family in one house could swing the election.
No,
I'm glad you said that, because that's the way you got to think about you can't change anything out there if you've not got yourself under control from here.
That's right.
That whole thing, my grandma used to say, it was in the Bible too, by the way. She said that every old wash tub has to sit on its own bottom.
On your own shit, man.
And, you're out there looking to try to be a manager and you can't fucking get there on time. You're calling in or you're doing this. You can't manage yourself. You can't manage other people. And that's what you all are talking about.
Absolutely.
With the local politicians and local politics is, you have to own that first. And if you're not, you're just pissing in the wind.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just giving somebody else the vote that you either want to have or you don't want them to
have. Or you're giving into a system, and in Blount County, and I know
bingo
most of these guys, and I don't mean any disrespect to them. At the same time, they're in those positions because they're the next old white man up. And it doesn't mean that we need that, that all these other people should run and you should vote for. I'm just saying, it's just the way it's worked.
It's a fact of the
and
fucking matter, Jay.
And some bitch wouldn't call me back.
It's a fact of the matter.
Like, all right, he's not calling me back. And I complained to my wife about it coming out of the voting booth in 2016. And this was before Trump, won. It had nothing to do with him. And we walked out of the voting booth and I was like, man, the only person on that ballot for State House on either party, there was no opposition, primary or otherwise, that's my only choice, and I can't get that guy to call me back, and I'm rational.
That's when you write your own name in. I voted for myself for president
Stacey
4
was
times.
like, when I said maybe I should run for office, and she said, you absolutely should, and I'm like, are you sure about that? Because I'm not good at mashing the gas halfway down.
Well,
yeah, but you got sense, though. I mean, it's the thing. It's like,
and I was also in a position where my wife being the breadwinner, I could go kill a bunch of time.
Hey, man,
trying to move the needle. And it's not about moving it to the way I feel so much. It's supposed to be about representation. And you should not have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce to get a call back from your representative.
I agree with that.
And that's when things go shitty.
When you were talking about the next old white guy in the order, there's a movie that came out, I guess it was early 90s called, I think it was the
Big Lebowski.
That came out then too.
Never seen it.
I think it was called Distinguished Gentleman. It had Eddie Murphy in it.
What did you just say?
I don't want to interrupt his thought.
No, you keep your thought. What did you just say?
Never seen it.
You've never seen The Big Lebowski?
Haven't.
Well, you need to. It's
I know. I'm a terrible movie dude, man. I'm sorry.
It was never one of my.
I knew this was going to be really bad if I brought that up, but yeah.
That or his dudeness or Duder or El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing. This rug I have, it really tied the room together.
Man, this movie is called The Distinguished Gentleman, and it has Eddie Murphy in it. I think it's got James Garner in it. But anyway, Murphy ran under I think his last name was the same name. Let's just take Cola, for example. His name would have been Cola in this movie. And he won because people were just so used to, Duncan. Like, Jimmy Duncan didn't have no opposition.
And
ever.
And now it's Burchett.
Same.
Yeah.
So
that guy. Fuck off.
I'm not going anywhere with that right now.
Well, I'll go soon. I will.
Well, no, I don't mind.
We don't have to.
I will because I don't give a shit.
Can I pee first?
I can tell you this is that
no, you cannot.
When I had the restaurant,
this is people over party.
I hear you. No,
people over party and pee.
We'll take a pee break. But when I had the restaurant, Empire Pizza, and I love New York Pizza, he was one of our best, most loyal customers.
Yeah,
and was very supportive. Anyway.
I'll say this about Burchett. He is very, very good with his constituent services. And that's important as a representative. I mean, I would rather have someone that calls me back and does not agree with me than someone who just won't call me back.
Me too.
That's not about being a representative.
Me too.
And here's half of what you're talking about too, is the fact that to even know that it is your right and that you have the ability and or the opportunity to speak to someone that should call you back. How many fucking people out here right now do you think even knows and or understands that statement?
And that's the biggest problem.
Period.
That is the biggest problem.
That's the problem.
You can't blame the politicians if the people don't call them.
Hello, music lovers. Campbell's Music Room Guitars was opened and founded by our longtime friend Kyle Campbell back in 2017. If you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, you're always needing something. From strings, picks, or maybe a repair to your trusty instrument. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has a full line of all the stringed instruments. New and pre-owned, accessories, pedals, amplifiers, and here's the best part. It's a local, family-owned business where you will get the very best of sales and service from the owner himself. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has something for everyone. Did we mention that he also gives private lessons? Kyle is one of Knoxville's most multi-talented players and teachers with many years of professional teaching experience. Located at 5103 Kingston Pike, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Give Kyle a call at 865-584-0041 or stop by and tell him McGill and Jamie sent you and you wanted to have one more for the good guys.
Someone who might...
You're entering a world of pain. You're like a child.
Can I get really
that wanders
raw
in from a fucking story, Donnie?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
here's my issue with the word fuck. And that is, I drive by, I know that's looked at as a very bad word in most people's...
Drive by?
No, fuck.
Oh.
In most people's vocabulary, that's kind of one of those, you wouldn't expect to hear that unless it was at a theater, R-rated movie, or some cable channel that just...
Or the grocery line.
Or at the honky tonk.
But that's the other part of it. Yeah, the grocery line. Yeah. But I drive by a guy's house almost every day
Oh, okay.
that has a fuck your feelings
Yeah.
flag and is, hanging out almost on the road.
Yeah, sure.
And he's got a house on each side that has kids. And you're kind of like, how can you... Because I know a lot of the folks were raised the same way I was. How can you go sit in that pew on Sunday and be okay with that?
Oh, he's one of those assholes?
I'm assuming he is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, he keeps his yard up nice. I've seen kids out in his yard, and it's like, come on, man.
Depends on what angle he's trying to make here. Because I say that quite a bit.
I'm not saying he should go to jail.
From a different angle. I say fuck your feelings quite a bit. But
when I drive by, if there's no kids in the yard, I sometimes yell that myself.
yeah, from the kid's standpoint, I get
but
that.
a different version than he is.
Right. To me,
All I can say is Bernie Mac said, fuck them kids.
yeah, fuck a bunch of kids.
I ain't got
That's
no
a joke, folks.
Fuck 'em up.
I don't have any,
That's a
so
joke.
it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just being
I
silly.
don't either. So,
But no, I just, the civility is absent.
Well, hey, man, right over here. If you go through the underpass and go down, right
the
down
way I came in,
downtown Mascot.
Yep.
Did you see that one?
Yep.
Yeah. And that is sitting directly across the street from a church.
Yep.
And I'm just like, how in the world could you be okay with that?
Yep.
well, I can tell you what.
That there's kids coming in and out,
And
regardless of whether you believe, don't believe, whatever. But to know, really, that's
The best thing
that's the statement you want to make with your time that you have allotted here, that a greater power than us has given us the opportunity to be here. And that's what statement you
and
want
they
to
say,
make.
fuck your feelings.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what it says over here, but
No, but
here's my opinion on it. Everybody has been trained in the last 20 years that their specific opinion matters. Okay. And what I mean by that is this: their uneducated opinion, their ignorant opinion, their opinion that they heard from somebody else, because all you got to do is post it on your wall on whatever social media site you want. And then there it is. I hate bumper stickers. And that's a bumper sticker, right? It's like, here's how I feel.
Sitting behind a computer and bumper stickers are the same thing.
Well, yeah, but saying that and posting it on your house over here is the same
I
as a
hate
bumper
penguins.
stick. You,
Hey, what?
Penguins. They count.
There's a lot of them in East Tennessee.
I want everybody to know how I feel about this.
Yep.
Okay. And that goes against one of my moral, my basic tenets of life. And here it is. I don't give a shit what you say. It's what you do that matters.
Yep.
And it's like a person, we used to have a pastor that said this many times. He's like, listen, if you fall in the lake and come out, you don't have to tell everybody you're wet. It's like if you are something, LeBron James, I'm talking to you, you don't have to tell everybody, right? Michael Jordan's not out telling anybody he's the GOAT.
He's winning.
He just is.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady just is. It's like everybody wants to have a voice regardless of what they did to earn it. Just like this douchebag over here. Okay. Or just like fuck your feelings guy. Okay. I'm a very much fuck your feelings guy, but from a different direction.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people rule their whole life with their feelings about how I feel about something or how whatever. And I'm completely not that way. I subscribe to the stoicism.
I get that.
Stoicism thing. It's like, listen, your feelings probably will lie their ass off to you. You know what I'm saying? If you rule your life with emotions, you're probably going to fuck up.
I 100% agree with that.
So, but people all the time have to have some kind of billboard or something to say. I can remember this is my personal story when Facebook first came out and I was still on MySpace, thought that ain't never gonna fucking work. But then,
man, me and Tom were like that.
Yeah, that's right. My God, the first friend you had, wasn't it?
Like that.
And I thought everybody wanted to hear what I have to say.
Shout out, Tom.
And the reality of it is nobody gives a shit what you have to say.
Yep.
And specifically when you say something like that. So it's all about, to me, don't say, just do,
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're throwing red meat to a bunch of lions, that's an easy job.
Well, that's a good example.
If you want to sit behind a computer and a mic, and you're not willing.
He's talking to us now.
No, well, no, because I think y'all get it. Y'all get it. But and that doesn't mean we agree on everything. It just means, y'all get it. It's like,
well, how boring would it be if we did agree on it?
Well, I know. And that's my point. It's like, that's the beauty of America is we're not supposed to agree.
That's right.
I mean, we told a king to go fuck themselves.
Yep.
So
we forgot that, by the way.
We have forgotten that.
We want another one.
Yeah.
I was trying to be nice, but yes. Yeah. I mean,
I've said it forever. It's originally it was people over party.
Yep. It's
and
not
now
that anymore.
It's party over the
and that's not a Republican.
No,
that's an American problem.
That's right.
That is an American problem.
Exactly.
And when I was kind of headed, maybe
that and fuck your feelings and all that bullshit. That's a people over party.
Yep.
That's what that is.
Yep. Because
they don't understand and or give a shit about the fact that there's going to be a school bus comes through there at 2:30 every day and drops kids off. And on the front porch, there's that. It doesn't matter that you're going to take your mother to the eye doctor and you're going to come back after 6 hours of getting ready to stab somebody in the goddamn neck with a fucking flathead screwdriver. But guess what? You get to drive by that. If you're 99% sure, keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yep.
If you're 100% sure, speak up.
Yep. Well, and even then, it's like, I mean,
that's not.
It's a gray line.
And that's not the case.
But, and I'm excited. Hey, listen, the more people that vote, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Because that means they give a shit. And if nothing else, what the other side, well, not the other side, what Trump's folks have done, and I'll just say it like it is, they have come out and he's tapped into something, and I'm excited to see people be involved in our process because that's what we should be.
Yeah.
And being from Tennessee and being the way I feel, that's kind of tough sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you understand the process, you understand and respect. And that's the issue I have, is that you respect the process.
But guess how and guess what? You can't say and do to not respect the process is fuck your feelings.
No, that's where I was
not,
saying. Yeah. No, that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah,
that's a non-starter.
I'm reiterating.
Yeah, no, that's a completely non-starter.
That's what you can't do.
When I drive by your house,
when you do that, you're a lazy person.
And what I see when I see that is someone who has never really participated in the process till now.
Of course.
And they feel like that's the way they need to do it.
But I got a voice.
But you know what? When they go into that voting booth, it doesn't matter if they've been there 20 times before or one time. That's the equalizer.
Yeah.
That is the equalizer. When it doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk or Mike McGill or Jay Clark or whoever.
Wait a minute.
You know.
Wait a minute.
I'm saying when you're in that voting booth, it's still counting. But then, people say, well, that's not the case with Electoral College. Well, I agree with that to a certain extent. And in Tennessee, trust me, there's very few people that I vote for to get elected because of the Electoral College. But,
the point being,
we have to respect each other.
You have to respect each other. And doing shit like that, there's no respect.
Nope.
And there's no hope. There's no dream. There's no fucking future in it to think that this is going to get us across the hump. This is going to carry us across the finish line. This is going to, in any other cliche shit you want to say.
Yeah.
But that's not the way to do it. And if you're doing it that way, you're just fucking lazy.
And the big misnomer is that one of the sides has it all figured out, because they don't.
Nope.
It's not about party lines. The respect, there's two kinds of respect. There is respect that you give
given and the kind earned.
Well, that too. But there's also a respect that you give everybody just because they're breathing. Right? It's like, let's say we're strangers and I don't know you and we're going to sit down and talk. I'm going to respect your space and your autonomy and everything else. But there's that other respect, like you just said, where it's earned. And if we start having a dialogue about, let's say you're a Democrat and I'm Republican, we have a dialogue about it, and all of a sudden you're going to start attacking my character because of the way I feel. See, that's the problem is, instead of talking the issues, we've made everything personal.
Yes.
It's a personal attack.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're a Democrat? Well, then Jay Clark is bad. You see?
Absolutely.
And that's completely wrong.
We knocked 9,000 doors in my campaign in 2018, and I knocked about $2,000 and I got a gun pulled on me twice. It's like, hey, I'm just knocking on your door because I'm trying to be your representative. And
they say, you knock on my door, I'll probably vote for you.
Well, most of the time that's the way it went.
Ever knocked on my door.
Well, most time that's how it went. But at the same time, I totally get, I live if you come down my driveway, Mike's been there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have, but Mike's been there a bunch of times. You either come down my driveway, you either know me, you're delivering something, or you're up to no good.
Right.
So,
or lost.
And as a Democrat, I want to make something very clear. I believe in the Second Amendment. I've had my gun barrel stuck out my window more than a few times when we first moved there, because our driveway was kind of a parking road for a while, and it wasn't after we moved there. And it's like 4:00 in the morning, you come down my driveway, I'm going to be ready.
But see, that's a perfect example right there, though. Okay, you're a Democrat, but you support the Second Amendment. So
if I ate red meat at my house, it's probably venison.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
because I didn't have a gun.
If you are one of the brainwashed side of the Democrat side versus the brainwashed side of the other side, you hear Jay Clark say, "Well, I'm for the Second Amendment." Well, all of a sudden, I'm going to write you off because you've got to believe exactly like I believe, or I hate you.
Yep.
Not I won't vote for you. Yep. I hate you.
Yeah.
So that's where the difference is.
That's huge, right? And Haller and Hilton Hill, just to give y'all some credence here, I was listening to him on the way over here, and he was talking the same thing.
Yeah.
It was exactly what y'all are saying.
Well, you know, over there on the headboard of the bed, there's a 38. There's a pump shotgun. There's a rifle over at the door. I mean, you know, I've never shot anybody. I probably wanted to shoot a few people in my life, but I knew the business end that you don't come back from that. So I don't, you know, I mean, obviously that's a little bit of a joke as well, but, you know, well, you think about me. You go out and play music and you look like I do, and you're wearing overalls or a Western shirt or something, and you're singing classic country music. Everybody automatically, my audience is Trumpers.
Yeah.
My audience is conservative Republicans.
Yep.
And they think that I'm that way. I mean, hell, I don't know how many times I've been asked, what kind of bike you got, man? I'm like, dude, and I tell them the same story every time. I said, I've been on a motorcycle 3 times.
My feet won't touch the damn ground.
And all 3 times I've wrecked. So I figured out real soon in life that I probably shouldn't be on a motorcycle.
That's right.
My granddad let me drive his old Bagger at one point, way back in the day. When I say Bagger, it wasn't like it was a Harley Davidson, but
yeah,
he and my grandmother got it, you know, to like
probably a gold wing,
something like that. Yeah,
it's probably a gold wing.
And
that's
I remember
what old people ride.
I drove it down the driveway. I was like 16, and I only weighed about 125 pounds, but I benched 220 at the time. So, I mean, it wasn't like I couldn't take care of myself. But that damn thing, my feet, you know, I'm 5'4", my feet wouldn't hit the ground. So when I got to the end of the driveway, turned around and turned over on me, of course.
And you couldn't lift it back up, I'm sure.
Couldn't lift it back up. I could, but I couldn't get back on it.
Yeah. It was 800 pounds.
So you stand by.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, okay, I'm not a motorcycle dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But no, I get what you're saying.
But that happens all the time.
Yeah.
We champion those people.
If you sing a gospel song.
Oh, I know. I mean, and
I
listen,
love gospel music.
Listen, man, some of the best
I hate contemporary Christian, but
some of the best times in my life and some of the most influential times in my life that shaped me as a man and shaped me of who I am to this day, and have shaped me into my beliefs of why I do what I do, has been from the church and from gospel music and or, you know, put another one on there.
And that's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a perfect example because people see churches. But
I'm not thumping.
Well, people see churches like Westboro, you know, that are out protesting soldiers and all this and whatever else they protest, and they think that everybody is that way.
I'm not thumping people in the head with a King James version and charging hell with an empty water pistol.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the way to go about it either.
There's only one Bible, but it's King James.
And I, like I said earlier, I listen to a lot of conservative political radio, but also Christian radio.
Just because that's all talk radio is.
Well, I was about to say, it's not hard to find.
Yeah.
That's why it cracks me up when everybody says
see that or
the America's out to get the conservatives. It's like, are y'all serious?
DJ's on the air.
Do what now?
Sorry.
What's that about?
We'll let that slide over. I said talk radio. I said, well, it's either that or WDVX when a certain DJ's on the air.
But the thing with some of that is
use your imagination.
You know, I'm a Christian. That's my number one thing in my life is my faith. That is never faded. And there is no doubt in my mind that I have friends and I know family who question that maybe, you know, because
sure
things I've done over the year or, you know, the stances that I took or whatever.
You're drinking a beer.
You're drinking a beer.
Well, yeah, you know.
Thank God.
I mean, hell, with all due respect, if Jesus and them had grown corn back in the time, they'd be taking communion with whiskey instead of wine.
First miracle he did is turn water into wine.
But
go ahead.
That's kind of where I'm headed. So, but I guess the overall point is I don't think my faith, you know, when you read the Bible and you listen to the preachers, especially the fire and brimstone. They always talk about you need to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I think I think Billy Joe Shaver said it about as good as you can get it.
And Tom T as well.
Yeah. Or Tom T, yeah. You know, me and Jesus got a good thing going. You know,
that's between us.
It's between us. And
guess what? If it comes to that day and when it does, then my toe's on the line, not anybody else's.
Well, I know where I'm at. And my point is sometimes when people sit there and if they want to question me.
I'm saying, but what you got to answer for?
Yeah.
Because those people you're talking about are the ones that do that.
Yeah. And my response to them is,
yeah,
if you are in a room with an air conditioner, then we might be in hell together.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we both prescribe to the same damn thing. And that's the way I look at it. And I don't know how else to say it more bluntly than that. But it's played a tremendous role in it's the number one thing in my life. If you listen to the songs that I've written, it's a central theme in most of them.
Well,
and so don't tell me or don't try to define to me what that means. If it's a personal relationship, then let it be that, you know?
You know, one of the first
things. If I'm wrong, I'll pay for it with hellfire.
Your toes on the line.
Yeah.
Nobody else's. One of the first things about you when meeting you and listening to your set and not knowing knowing your name, you know, but listening to a set and then meeting you and, as well as getting to know you through the years and over the years is, I had no doubt in my mind about who Jay Clark was. And
that's a huge compliment.
What he stood
I appreciate
for,
that.
and I mean it.
I know you do. It almost makes me want to tear up.
I'm kind of a little bit right now, but I knew that, and I also knew that, wading those same waters of where I was going, that, I had someone to look to and or to talk to and or to console with about that same thing, because I've felt and believed the same way.
Yeah. And I
never ran from
I feel
that.
that the same way. You always, you know, we could always talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it was really important because that's, you know, that's the biggest part of our life at the end of the day.
But I knew
it doesn't mean it should not be defined by someone that has their own opinion behind a pulpit that has a agenda.
Well, pulpit is no place for opinions.
I would agree.
Period.
And I think that's why my dad was such a good preacher.
Yeah. And I always believed that, you know, there was oftentimes early in life, I thought I was called to do that.
I went to Maryville College
but
as a religion major, planning on being a preacher.
I could not ever get over that hump of opinions in the pulpit. And I was just like, I respect it and I fear it too much that I'm not going to get up there and play that game.
Well, here's the thing. I can assure you that all three of us have given people chicken skin over the years, probably as much or more than a preacher would through our music.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I think, you know, music has so much power, regardless of where it's coming from. It just has so much power. And the artist and the people that write it and perform it, you know, and that's where we haven't even addressed this, but modern country goes to shit is, you know, I mean, if I'm standing on stage and you can take a picture of me and my hair standing up,
Oh, absolutely.
I fucking mean it, man. I mean, that's, and
absolutely.
you know, and there's songs, if I ever sing them and my hair don't stand up on my arms, I won't sing them anymore, because that means I'm not doing it. I'm not serving the song justice, which means I'm not serving where it came from justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Somebody asked me on Tuesday night. We normally record podcasts on Tuesday night, and I don't. My wife's family has they go out to eat or whatever on Tuesdays, so I got to go. And her uncle asked me, because we have talks like this. All of her family are Christian people, right? But they're all also real people too, you know. He said, Jamie, what do you think? Is there anybody out there? Because we got to talking about this subject. He said, is there anybody out there that you think is like preaching the truth or whatever? And I said, I told him, I said, I'm sure there is. Not that I listen to.
All right.
I said, but here's what I think. I said, my personal opinion is that what you might want to call a revival or a, depending on what denomination you're in, work of the Spirit or whatever. I said, to me, and it's the way I see it and the way it's going to come, if it comes, is from what people from the pulpit might call the secular world. It's like I can get more out of a Merle Haggard song than I can most contemporary Christian music.
Listen,
okay.
Contemporary Christian music sucks, and that's a completely different conversation. But yeah,
well, I'll tell you what,
if I just hit search or scan on the FM or AM dial, you can immediately tell when you hit one of those, because
it's not good.
Oh, it's terrible. It's just the worst music ever. It has nothing to do with my faith. It's the worst. How can you write 100 songs about the same damn thing?
Well, it's easy. You start writing about yourself. Most contemporary Christian music is self-centered, in my opinion. And I played it for 10 years, 4 nights a week. So I know, and I played it the other day as a fill-in, and I know it's a totally different episode altogether, but you're right.
It's all about the person.
Well, a lot of times it's, and I got a lot of flack over it over the years. I was like, Jamie, don't you listen to this? I was like, no, I don't listen to that garbage. Well, I said, listen, as the way I hear it, I said, most of those cats are playing that because they couldn't make it on doing something else.
Yep.
That's how I feel about it. And I've played all of it. Okay. So, and I'm not saying, no, there's never an always. So there is some of it that is heartfelt.
Oh, it's
and
legitimate.
Good. But
thing.
I'm just saying that, it's for as far as musically goes, it's typically garbage.
I can't stand it. I would rather listen to any genre of music. And I mean, any genre.
I would too.
Before I listen to contemporary Christian.
Yeah.
So I was
unless it's real new country. It's kind of on an equal.
Well, and that's not too far behind.
No, it's not. Same people.
Yeah. Sucks really bad.
So I was leading the music at the Tassel Pike way back when, Baptist church. And I got not hoodooed as using hoodooed as a trick or a bad thing to get into it. It was my name, my family's lineage, my brother, you're a McGill, you must be able to do this.
Right.
It was that, you know what I mean? So, and I went into it, and we didn't have a piano player, but I had this guy that was just a little bit younger than me, named Johnny Miller, he played guitar. Like, I didn't know who Tony Rice was, but I heard John Miller play guitar, so now I know who Tony Rice is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a void there. There was a place that needed to be filled to help for the greater good. So I stepped into it. And I could read the music and tell everybody, the people's key of what we needed to play it in for everybody to be able to sing it.
Yeah.
And so I had that ability, through music and theory and school and all that I had studied all this time. So we did that. And, but my accompaniment was a guy playing rhythm guitar,
Well, though.
Well, very well. And no, it was Johnny Miller.
Johnny Miller.
And
not to be confused with the golfer, Johnny.
Yeah. Not to be confused. Yes. That's you only use that one in golf when you're like Johnny Miller to get tempo right.
Right.
That's who Johnny Miller was. But in the music, that's all I had. And we started playing it, and all we had to sing out of was the old church hymnal.
Yep.
So it was everything was about heaven. Everything was about repenting. Everything was about how gracious you were and how good God was, right?
That's why I like hymns.
That's the 300 pages that made up that book.
That's right.
There was nothing about worship. There was nothing about, the things that you all just talked about with the whole contemporary stuff. And the next thing you know, man, I mean, literally a month goes by and people are everywhere. There's people coming.
Yeah.
There's people listening. There's people singing. There's people having a good time. It's a show.
Yeah. Well,
it's a show.
That's the difference. Yeah.
It's a show, right? So you're doing that because, and then we get a piano player who's all by ear, don't know how to read any notes, anything. But I can tell her what key. If I say it's in B flat, she knows how many flats are in the.
Right.
You know what I mean? And she can just go right and plays melody. All these amazing things lining up that only pretty much, as far as the musical side of it goes, is myself, Johnny, and Glenda, the lady who was playing the piano, knew how special this was to be able to come together and work. Yeah. And the next thing, we're going for a little bit and doing really, really, really well with everything. And I'm being fulfilled by it. I'm getting a lot of blessings from it. And we get to the point, and then the pastor comes and he's like, we should probably start thinking about worship hymns, and we should probably start thinking about, putting the thing on a projector and doing this and doing that and doing. And I'm like,
that's when I'm out.
I'm like, buddy, really?
Yeah. I've had back to back two of the best cigars I've ever had while we've been sitting here. And this one right here is one of our go-tos that is fantastic.
Absolutely.
And man, it's like having 3 pieces of apple pie with ice cream in a row.
Damn, that's a big endorsement right there. Y'all, are they funding y'all's podcast yet?
No, but y'all should be.
Not near enough.
Not near enough.
So maybe we should do a little entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But when the pastor came to me and started talking about all that stuff, I was just like, well, I immediately knew he was talking out of his element, and
it was one-sided.
And that was the trend. That was the trend at that point, too.
That was the trend. And that's fine if we have something that if we had some real kind of hope of going that way, I've got a lady that can't read sheet music, but plays piano.
Like a dream.
Yeah. Like Jerry Lee.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not quite as crazy
I
as
know
Jerry,
what you mean,
but
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got a guy
Because those are usually the best.
who's playing rhythm guitar that knows rhythm. I mean, he knows a lot of other stuff, but they don't know this stuff,
That's right.
you know, and it's going to be this way. We got to start doing this. And and as I started trying to explain and talk to him about it and trying to explain why this was going to be a challenge and we could start taking some of it on a little bit at a time, if that's
Sure.
I wasn't ixnaying his look at it either, but I have to be realistic.
Well, Dad's church.
I have to be realistic of
what you can
what
deliver.
I can do and what I can't.
Yeah.
I can't get up there and play John Lee Hooker tunes all night because I don't have the talent to do that.
Right.
I don't have the abilities to do that. Now I can get up there and play this all night because I have the talent and the abilities to do so. And if I'm going to be stepping up into that position as good as it is now, then I want to be, I can half-ass it at home. I don't have to come here to half-ass it.
Yep.
And that's what we would be doing.
Well, and my dad's church, I've always been someone that if I went to church, and I've always gone to church until when I got to grad school, I realized suddenly that not every preacher was my dad, who was a really, really good. I mean, it wasn't about judging you.
Sure.
It made you think about being a better person. And some folks will say, well, that's not what a sermon should be about. Well, that's okay, but that's why we have denominations,
It's absolutely what it should be about.
Well, but that's what my dad did. And my dad was also very conscious, and I'm saying this in hindsight, of where the church was headed.
Sure.
And we're talking about a town of, maybe, of course, it wasn't this when I grew up, but definitely less than 20,000 people. Easy, maybe less than 15.
Yeah.
But it's one of the biggest churches in the Coleman Presbyterian denomination. And part of that, well, it's credited to my dad. But after I'd gone to college, they started doing a contemporary service, which was one of the first churches that did that in town. And they had a contemporary service along with a traditional service. And the contemporary service now probably outweighs the traditional service by, and my dad's been passed now for 6.5 years, but even when he was alive, it probably outnumbered the traditional service 60 to 40 easy. Now it's more like 80 to 20. And they have a praise band, and I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But I have no desire to go to the contemporary service at that church because, they sing with a PowerPoint presentation, and it's a bunch of songs I don't know.
With too many words.
That say exactly that, and you're like, and so I think the church as a whole is struggling right now. Not because of music by any means, but just the theology of where we're at now. And we forget that we're a very young nation, and that because we're the most powerful nation in the world, we have it all figured out.
Well,
and all you got to do is look to the Vatican and some other places to see that, hey, things change over time.
Everybody wants to be right.
And you're not going to be right.
And hardly anybody is.
I don't know how you would be. I mean, the only person I ever known of, and that's based on my faith. And faith is something, is kind of blind. You know, I mean, it is blind. I mean, that's why they call it faith. I mean, as a scientist.
But you know what I'm saying?
You know.
Like, everybody wants to be right.
Yep.
They want to have the right move. They want to know the right thing ahead of the time that it comes around. You want to be, you know, not so much a prideful thing of being right and wrong. Oh, I'm right. But everybody wants to be right.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not the way you move through. That's not the way you move through life, much less a chessboard, if you will.
Well, you say all the time, if you're somebody that has to be right all the time,
you're going to be a lonely person, man.
That's right. And yeah,
you know, so good luck with that. It's like, you know, we had a driver's ed teacher. It was one of the best ever in the state, ever.
Won national competitions.
Y'all went to high school together, is that right?
Yeah, partially, but that's what he's talking about, Mr. Acuff.
Yeah. When he came into high school, I was just like, I need to graduate now. Get out of here. But no, Mr. Acuff was always, you know, one of his things that I remember him saying was, okay, so you had the right of way and you were right. Now you're dead. How's that working out for you? Pay attention.
That's right.
Look around. Know your surroundings. See what's happening. See how you can better involve yourself or your message and or your willingness to,
as opposed to just being the loudest person in the room.
Just being right.
Or that
but
person
I'm right.
Or that person that opens the door, you know, like you're going in to talk to some people and you open the door and throw a grenade in and you let it go off. And then you walk in and say, okay, who's left? And let me figure out who I'm dealing with. I think that's a lot of people's way of thinking. And that's just not the way it works.
Well, and along the same lines of what he's saying, I had a pastor once and he would say this often. He'd be like, look, I'm not trying to win an argument here. I'm trying to win a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, most people, what a lot of people don't understand about human nature and whatever else is like, if you don't have a rapport with somebody and a history with somebody, they don't give a damn what you think at all, right? Because you're just a suit behind a podium and, you know.
Or you're just another guy off the street.
It's like you've got to earn the right to be listened to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
By doing something. And I think that's what gets lost. You're talking about how the church is in trouble or whatever. And it's because, this is how I see it, it's like everybody, no matter if you're Christian or you're whatever, you despise it or whatever. No matter. Everybody wants something real. Everybody. They're looking, the whole world is searching for something real. And the problem is that for the most part, the church is fake.
Yep.
It's presenting this, here's the word, but we're going to do it this way.
And what's the most segregated time in America right now?
Yeah.
It's Sundays. You know, Sunday mornings.
Sure.
And
that's a good point.
You know, I think when we talk about the church, like you and and this is no offense to you or me or Mike or anybody else, but we're sitting there thinking about our own experience.
Sure, absolutely.
You know? And some of the most religious people I've ever known that were what I would call truly dedicated Christians are some of my black friends.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But yet, we don't worship together.
That's right. Or do anything else together, really, from a community standpoint.
Those are some of the things.
And how can that be?
Exactly. And that's where I'm getting at. It's like the church should be the first place that helps mitigate that.
Like I have a friend named Marcus, and I met him years ago. And if I'm not careful sometimes in talking to a group of white people, I'll say, or I have said, oh, my black friend Marcus.
Yep.
No, it's my friend Marcus.
Yep.
It's not my black friend. I seen an interview with Morgan Freeman one time, and it made me aware of what I had done in my, with no malice, or no ill intent as far as saying my black friend Marcus. But I heard an interview one time that put me onto it that was, and I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but it was, I think it might have been Charlie Rose, the PBS guy for years that did the interviews. And he said, black actor or Morgan Freeman, or how would you like for me to refer to you? And he was just like, how about the man, Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be any adjectives on this, I'm a man just like you are. And,
but I also
made me think about that as well.
In our small worlds that we all live in.
Sure.
It is important to point out when the person that we're acknowledging is, of a different race or creed or whatever. But that said,
Well, what you said about segregation,
really yeah,
it's just as segregated between denominations too, because you'll have
big time.
You'll have a Baptist church and a Methodist church on the same corner, and they don't even talk to each other. It's like, everything in the New Testament, especially anything that was written by Paul when he was addressing to the church at Corinth, I write, or whatever. He wasn't talking about First Baptist of Corinth. He was talking about the body, the church itself, all of them.
Yeah.
And we created that denomination thing because somebody got mad and was like, well, I don't believe it, predestination, and we need to go over here.
That's the beauty of it.
I
think that's the beauty of religion is like, and that's where I think it kind of comes full circle is, whether you're a Christian or otherwise, it's like everybody's searching for something. Now, as a Christian, I believe, a certain way, and I get that. But, man, we are such a small part of the world, and I just don't feel right dismissing all these other people. And my faith teaches me that. And that's where the conflict is. It's like, the way I feel about my religion is that, hey, you should not be judging people and all. But then if you're really hard nosed about it, you say, well, you should be out there witnessing to those folks. And I don't know,
but
that's someone
you got to get that first part right.
Well, and that's where I was headed. It's like when I read the Bible,
and then you can move on to that one.
I don't always interpret it the same way.
If you don't have that part right first, you're going to be. We can half-ass it here, or we can half-ass it out there.
Again, it comes down to respect,
right?
It comes down to respect,
absolutely.
And if I'm not willing to listen to someone that believes differently than me, and that's what I think we preach a lot from a Christianity standpoint, then
if I'm not,
what's my role how do you call someone an apostle?
Yeah.
Because that means you're supposed to be spreading the word, But does that mean you don't listen?
If I can't spend my nights here before I go to bed thanking him for or her or whomever.
I love the fact you said that. That's awesome. You got points with Stacy, just so you know.
If I can't before I lay my head down to thank him for everything that I've been given, and to hope and to pray for the fact that I want to be better tomorrow, just maybe this much better than I was today.
And Mike's giving the fingers of about the size of his penis.
Yeah.
In case y'all aren't watching this.
See there? That's why.
I've been good all night. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
That's why we can't have nice things. But nonetheless, if I can't truly believe and lay my head down at night thinking that, how the hell do I think I'm going to go out and change anything in the future? You got to get one thing straight and one thing right from the beginning, you know, of what it comes to when it's a personal belief and a personal faith in that thing that, like you said, with Tom T, you know, we got our own thing going.
Well, if you can't respect me, I'm not going to listen to you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll hear you out, but it doesn't mean I'm going to take it to heart.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, applying that to your
So
to
you're
your
just-
own life is the same way. And as a songwriter, I think that matters. It's
Absolutely.
It's like, I want
anybody can
as a
write a bunch of
songwriter,
stuff
I
that,
want to challenge you to think
you know,
about something maybe
Yeah.
that I'm thinking about. And it's not from a narcissistic standpoint or an egotistical standpoint. It's just like, hey, this is something that was on my mind, and it might or might not have to do with everybody else. But if it does, and some songs do, you like throw it out there. And for me, I've always been like, okay, if someone what possibly could someone ask me about every scenario related to this topic, and be prepared for it, you know, and not from the standpoint of winning, but from the standpoint of going, hey, I'm not disrespecting you by what I wrote.
well, it's not from a disrespect. It's not from a point of winning. It's from a point of being able to share.
And that's my point. Yeah. Share my feelings
That's what it is.
and maybe make you think about it. And that doesn't mean that I'm right, because if you want to confront me about it, you're doing the same thing I was trying to do. Maybe
You can share hate. You can share love.
I don't tolerate
you
much
can
hate,
share, but
but no, I hear what you're saying.
riddle me this, Batman. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
You can
fuck
riddle-
you too, buddy.
You can share faith. You can share love. You can share hate.
Yep.
You can share prejudice. You can share anything you want. I mean, if you have the ability to communicate and people have the ability to understand the way you communicate, you can do all of that.
But they have to respect you to take it. And that's the point. I think the way
They have to respect you.
we
and
deliver
I think
that.
you have to respect the process of how you deliver it. You can't not believe in something and then go out and try to persuade something on somebody and expect, you know, the results from it of being, okay, I want them over, you know, regardless if it's Christianity or whatever.
Yep.
So you have to have that stuff right at home, I think. And you have to have the willingness to understand there's ways to communicate that, you know, as far as people go, with belief,
Yep.
and passion, integrity, you know, and all the other important words you want to put on it.
Yeah.
But-
And whether you're a friend, family member, a student at Maryville College, or someone I don't know, you know, there's a lot of things I don't understand.
Oh God,
We've got some friends
I don't know how black and white. I
that
don't know how black and white cows eat green grass and make white milk.
But, you know, I mean, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that it's wrong, you know? And that's not a cop out for Christianity and all these other issues that sometimes come up.
No, it's
just-
something to work on.
yeah. And I, you know, I think, as Jamie was saying earlier about Jesus drawing stuff in the sand, you know, if you're going to pick up a stone and throw it,
Oh,
you really
you
should
better
think
be
about it.
ready.
You better throw it at yourself first,
Yeah, I mean, you know,
which is also scriptural.
and there's so much of that. You know?
We got a
Yeah.
world full of finger pointers pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
All your fingers should be pointing at yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's what the whole gospel is about.
Yep.
You know, die to yourself, follow me, that kind of thing. And that's the kind of stuff that, especially in a Western society, and especially in an American society where we have been told that we're all special, and which we are to some degree, but how your voice is the most important one. And it's all about me. And there ain't nothing in the Bible about me.
Nope.
No.
Zero. So, and that's sucks, because that's the part, you know, it's like you're talking about differences and whatever. I think one of the issues with politics and with churches and everything else is that people view differences, that people that are different, as weaknesses. And it's not necessarily.
not.
It's like, okay, you're different. Why do you feel that way? Because I'll ask people if we get in, and I avoid political discussions at all costs, because I just do. And mainly because I have, much like you have, I have studied and researched, and I'm a student of history, and I know how things went down and that kind of thing. And, being able to convey how you feel about something, and in such a way, it's like Mike was talking about passion. I can get behind, or at least I can enjoy something or be emotionally or affected by it if the person delivering that message or that song or whatever is passionate about it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's say that you're passionate about something that I know nothing about. Opera. Okay. I'm a musician. I've been to a couple of operas. Not my thing. Okay. When the opera category comes up on Jeopardy, I'm out. Okay. That's it. But if you've got a passion for it, your passion for it in my presence, if it's real passion, is contagious. It's like, okay, well, maybe don't know as much about this. And I think the delivery of the Christianity message, or any kind of social idea whatsoever, is much more of spouting out rhetoric and something you've heard from somebody else, instead of something from in here that's passionate. And when you find somebody that's passionate about something, like, people want to follow that. They're like, oh, I want that for me. Maybe not on this subject, but I have things I'm passionate about, and that person is passionate about this. And so you listen. And we spend most of our time looking at others. And I'm the worst at this. I'm like, oh God, here we go again. It's another contemporary Christian song, or here's another bro country song. or whatever, and I automatically write it off based on my experience with the last bro country song that I hated, or the 15 overhead pages of lyrics on this contemporary Christian song talking about, everything except what it should be talking about. So people automatically get in their mind, well, I've heard this before. And I think that's a problem for your individual growth, is if you automatically write something off based upon your limited experience. It's like if we only walk through life and made decisions based on our limited experience, you're going to have a lot of heartache.
Yep.
Right? Because you've not lived long enough to make those decisions on your own. You might get lucky and make a right decision or whatever. So I think that there's a big disconnect with everybody. Everybody these days is adamant about something. And if you disagree one little jot and tittle, they're automatically your enemy and they don't want to hear anything else you have to say.
Right.
And I think that's
tribalism.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that keeps things from it's the major thing that keeps humanity from progressing, especially politics and religion. It's like, hey, why can't the Baptists and the Methodists and the Church of God in Christ, which is traditionally a black fellowship, and the Church of God over here, the Church of Christ over here that doesn't have any instruments in it, whatever, just lay all that shit down. Okay.
Just blow a pitch pipe.
Yeah, let's blow a pitch pipe and let's just come together under one thing. And if you're going, if it's Christianity, it's hey,
something.
The gospel can basically be summed up like this, in my opinion. It's like, Jesus Christ is Lord. What are you going to do about it? End of sentence. If you could get under that one umbrella and agree that, okay, we all agree on this. Okay, well, let's just forget the rest of it. And come together here. There's so much power, and this is scriptural as well. There's so much power in agreement. Where two or more are gathered and all that. That's kind of scripture. So much power in agreement.
We're in good shape here.
Yeah, right. So it's like, I'm sure if we started making lists here off camera and started talking about particular topics, we're all going to have some disagreements or whatever. And what I tell people all the time is, if we get in that conversation, I'm like, okay, well, convince me. I'll listen. I mean, I don't know everything, and I've changed my mind a lot over the years. I
don't agree with you, you're going to hell, kind of.
Yeah, or if I don't agree with you we talked about this before, but it's like, in the old days, you could be a Democrat and I could be a Republican, and you could be a Baptist and I could be a Methodist, and we're still buddies, right? It's like us.
And people don't want to do that now, yeah.
Right. He hates the Yankees.
And that's why we're going to be in big trouble.
That's why we're in trouble.
Careful.
That's right.
I mean, I think we already are. I mean, I listen to a lot of conservative talk radio, and you hear them talking like, hey, I mean, Dan Bongino, they play on the most popular, highest wattage station in Knoxville. And he's more or less, he's an old military guy, and he's kind of like, hey, we're on the precipice of war here.
That's right.
And you're like, over what?
Over smoke and mirrors. Really?
Well, no, but that's what I mean. It's like, over what?
Yeah. So I think that we could really, if everybody could just sit down and say, look, what do we have in common? We're all overworked. We're all underpaid. We're all probably not operating in the exact calling that we're supposed to be. Let's start there instead of talking about, y'all got a piano at your church. You're not supposed to have instruments in church or whatever.
I agree with that.
Well, you look at it that way, and there's the whole thing like, you think about a chef, that's making a dish or is getting ready to, make something for dinner, right? And he's got this big pot. And he throws a little oregano in. He throws a little potatoes, a little onion, a little celery, a little garlic, little carrots, the Holy Trinity, blah, blah, blah. And if you really want to get down to it, we're all those ingredients. All of us. Blacks, whites, Chinese, Japanese, whatever other fucking kind of knees, whatever. We're all in this big melting pot together. So we can either try to figure out how to make the recipe work and be something that we can stomach, or we can decide that we're just going to put in more of the shitty stuff that doesn't taste good and that nobody's going to like, and we get to eat that for the rest of our lives.
Well, let's just pretend that you believe in not believe, because that's not the right word, but let's just pretend or say for real that, the first Europeans showed up here in the 1400s, even just give it a little bit before Columbus. They had no idea about the people in this world or in ours, in our entire continent.
They didn't ever know they were going to fucking find land.
And so when people go, well, how did people get along 1,000 years ago? They didn't even know anybody existed over here 1,000 years ago. They thought a lot of people thought the world was flat. I mean, it's just people have to be able to evolve with where we are as a people and understand that there are different cultures. And, I'm not one of these that goes, well, the United States is bad because blah, blah, blah. But just like every other country that exists now, we pretty much overran a group of people, to establish what we have now.
Annihilate them.
And exactly. And we're only, I know our country's not this old, but, when you really want to think about it, it's been over the last 400 or 500 years. And people say, well, folks over in Europe don't matter. Man, they inserted themselves in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, for that matter. So we're all connected one way or the other. And
everybody matters.
But when you start talking about folks of minorities, they didn't really matter until the last 400 or 500 years. And they didn't really matter for the last 300 or 400 for us Americans. And I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff I don't think we always think about when, and I'm not talking about white privilege. I'm just talking about, I think there's a lot of things we don't think about related to how we got to where we're at.
Well, something you said earlier, and as we're wrapping this up, is you were talking about the person you met that couldn't read and write. And I got to thinking about that while you were talking about it. It's like, at one time and not that long ago, education was an absolute luxury because most people didn't have time for it because they weren't working for money. They were working to survive. And if you go back to, pre-New World era, is that, idle hands didn't exist in 1400. Okay. You weren't sitting around flipping through Netflix or whatever. Yeah. Every waking moment you had was putting your hand to the proverbial plow in order for your survival. And with Western society, we eliminated that process. So now we've got all this time on our hands to philosophize and theorize and all this other. And it's been to our own detriment because we've lost community. We've lost the ability, the skill set that we now need because we farmed it out to everybody else that still lives that way. We have decided, people, we're talking about the Christian thing, is that for some reason, the people in the United States that are Christians think that the Bible was written for the United States only.
Negative.
It's like, wait just a minute here.
Yeah.
You know, that's a different episode. But I think that idle hands and not letting yourself, basically letting yourself be overcome by things that you shouldn't, that shouldn't have been there, because we're turned into a lazy, comfortable society now.
Yeah.
You know, whereas before, hell, it didn't matter, who was. It's like my grandmother said when I interviewed her before she died. I said, Granny, tell me about the Great Depression. She said, son, hell, we didn't know no Great Depression. We was poor all the time.
Yep.
Well, that didn't mean nothing to them. They
didn't change life at all.
They starving before and after.
Exactly.
If you lived in Appalachia, it didn't.
That's right. So you work
The Great
daylight
Depression
to
was
dark.
a normal thing. Yeah.
That's right. You work daylight to dark.
That just is something everybody else caught up to.
That's right.
I gotta be.
Sure.
Finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here in just a
I'll sit
minute.
here with y'all all night. I just didn't want to.
No, and you're welcome to stay here and sit here.
This is a long one. We
It's
got,
been a good one, though.
yeah, very deeper than most.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's good. That's how, that's what differentiates you from,
Well, that was our guest. Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. We go where we follow where we're led.
Yeah, I think so. I could have steered it a lot of different ways. I could have took over right from the first and said, we're blah, blah, blah. But
I think this will be one of our most.
If y'all wanted this to only be an hour, you should tell me.
Oh no. We did we do time things on the other. So
No, you're fine.
If I get to drinking, I got to piss, man.
It happens.
It does.
Well, what's on the agenda for Jay these days? Just teaching and or playing a few gigs, or
No, I mean,
what do you got going on?
music
You got
part-
anything exciting you need to talk about?
The music stuff will always be a part of my life. So yeah, I'm going to be playing shows.
I would hope so.
Oh,
you got any shows coming up in August? Because this episode will, like I said, air around July 29th. So anything in August or later would be a good time to.
not that I know of at the moment.
Where
Thinking.
can we follow your shows and
Well, I do have a website at jclarkmusic.com,
okay. jclarkmusic.com.
which stays updated occasionally. Admittedly. I think the biggest thing for me is I love my job at Maryville College. That place.
Why?
Well, it just that place helped transform me. The 2 years I went there, I didn't graduate from there, but the 2 years I went there in 92 through 94 really made a difference in my life as far as the way I think about
Your
people.
person.
Because I just didn't know
Sure.
anybody different than a
Yeah.
old boy from Southern Appalachia,
Yeah.
And it's the first time I'd really met folks that didn't think like me. And you're like, hey, it makes you realize the world's bigger than the Common
Yeah.
Plateau.
Bigger than Winchester, Tennessee.
Yeah, So, I think the biggest thing coming up for me is still working at the college, still playing music. The stuff I do at the college, Maryville College, is with sustainability, environmental stuff, but part of my job description is to help us make us all things Southern Appalachia. We're the closest school to the national park. the crown jewel of the Park Service, for that matter.
That's true.
And we're kind of a blue collar, not like Berea, but slightly close to it. We're like a blue collar liberal arts college, and I kind of take pride in that because it's not like I came from money to go to a private college, and that's something that's really important to me. But the other thing is just from a music standpoint and a life standpoint, it's just what we've been talking about is learning how to respect. And that doesn't mean teaching people how to do that.
Right.
That means as much about learning how to respect people as it does about helping people learn how to respect people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people fail in that standpoint. So, yeah, if I had a message about where I'm going forward, that's that. My Stacy, my wife, she takes care of the financial side of things, and that's good. So it gives me the ability to kind of say, this is what I'm going to do. If I want to stand on a stage and say, hey, guy, that I drive by your house with that flag that says, fuck your feelings, here's my number if you ever want to call me and truly talk about it. And that's the way I feel about it. It's not about going by his house and yelling, fuck you every time. It's more of I'm in this country too, and I disagree with the way you think we should go. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but the path that we go on, I think, is really important. And that's kind of, I guess, where if I want to have an influence in my community, that's where it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. Well, listen, man, we don't ever really have an agenda on here as far as what we're going to talk about and what
was obvious,
what we
and
say.
I appreciate it.
And I really, Jamie and I both really kind of want it to be, for the first let me rephrase that. For many of the first episodes that we had with guests, everybody were like, that I would talk to would be like, well, they're 3 hours or they're this. And I'm like, yeah, but the great thing about it is you can jump in anywhere you want because you're not missing any important, backstory or anything. You can be a fly on the wall.
And every episode stands on its own.
Yeah, for sure. We've had lots of history together over the years of knowing each other. And as I said in the beginning, of sharing stages and friendships and good times and bad. But I really respect you as a person. I really respect you as a songwriter and for what you do in your craft. And I really respect you because even though I may have seemed years ahead of where I was when I first met you, I wasn't that far ahead. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being always straightforward. You've certainly not always been kind, and I'm not going to dwell on. I'm not going to dwell on that. Do you like the way I turned that?
I don't know if I know.
I turned it on you I turned it on you like a bag full of rattlesnakes. But all kidding aside,
if you ask me how I feel, I'm going to tell you.
No. All kidding aside, I do appreciate you for many more reasons other than our friendship. And
I appreciate that, man.
I'd
take a bullet for you if that makes you feel any better.
Don't say that.
I would.
Fuck off.
I would, man. You're a good dude, man.
Well, I am a good dude, and you're a good dude, but I ain't getting shot for you. You can go fuck yourself.
That's how I feel about that.
And all that other bullshit. When people say that, I'm just like, yeah, really? Really? You'd die for me. Fuck off.
Listen, I wouldn't be afraid to go to battle with you.
Well, not go to battle. That's one thing.
I mean, if you're going to be beside me, I get it.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of other people I'd rather not have next to me, but I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it, and you're welcome. But saying all that, say this. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming all this way, and we should do another one. We'll actually try to get into a little bit of a history about Jay Clark, but I didn't mean to hijack y'all's show tonight by just yapping, but I mean,
y'all might have had some notes, but I didn't.
We have no notes.
Y'all didn't share that with me, so
we
I
don't
didn't
take notes or make notes in the beginning.
Nobody's going to worry about that but our listeners.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of them. And they didn't.
I'm one of them.
And they didn't like you either.
Well, you know what? Fuck their feelings. That may be a good way to end it.
That is a good way to end it. Hey, folks, anybody can be an asshole. It takes somebody with some caring not to be an asshole. Be kind. Kindness doesn't cost anything to anybody that you meet. And always understand that there's a price to be paid for cruelty. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. God bless y'all. Jamie, you want to do another one?
Oh, yeah.
Jay, you want to come back sometime?
I'll come back anytime y'all want, brother.
Cheers. One more for the good guys, y'all.
One more for the good guys.
You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't, or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.